Okay, Israel, shalom. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to get our prayers up to get the Most High's glory and get started. Shout out Kawakab, Guatemala, and his congregation. Hope you all doing well. Shout out SOW Virginia, Kazakia, SOW Houston, Quantazop, and SOW Rochester, New York, Zion. I hope your brothers and sisters are doing well. We'll see y'all soon at the Passover. Hopefully we get some time throughout all the hustle and bustle to actually hang out and rap and reconnect. I know your brothers are fighting in the spirit, and we respect everything y'all do. We're going to get these prayers up and get ready for class. Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Hahawa'ah. Nothing to know. A war. Zayawam. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the light this day. Thank you. So be it.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Hahawa'ah. Nothing to know. Rayach.
The water. Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us sweet savor. Thank you. So be it.
Imagine Wapanya Yerushalayim.
Stand and face Jerusalem.
Okay. Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua.
Hahawa'ah. Nothing to know. Shabbat. Shalom. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you. So be it.
Okay. Psalms 121. Anasha.
Ayanyamya.
Ahoya. Mahaya. Yabu'ah. Isaiah. Yabu'ah. Yehovah. Sha'isha. Shemaiah. Wa'aratazah. La'ah. Yanathan. Lamawat. Regalia. Yala'ah. Nawam. Shashamoyah. Ana. Yala'ah. Nawam. Wala'ah. Yashan. Shashamamar. Yashua. Yahweh. Shemaiah. Yahweh. Tazaria. Ayah. Yanyamya. Yad. Hashemash. Yala'ah. Hakaya. Bayawam. Wala'ah. Halabana. Balayala. Yahweh. Yashmoya. Makol. Rai. Yashmor. Napasha. Yahweh. Yashmor. Awarakia. Wabu'aya. Aitha. Amen.
Psalms 121 in English. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasha'Allah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen.
Israelite Credo. Shema Yahshua. Yahweh. Elohayinu. Yahweh. Echad. Shema Yahshua. Yahweh. Elohayinu. Yahweh. Echad. Shema Yahshua. Yahweh. Elohayinu. Yahweh. Echad.
Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord.
Lord's Prayer. Abinah, Shema, Kodash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Barakwatka, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Baratazah, Hawa, Hayah, Hashemaiah, Natalanoah, Lacham, Kol, Yawam, Wasalachano, Chawabathino, Chasalachano, Chawabathino, Wala'ah, Fabian. Benasawan, Abo, Awashara, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Amarakwa, Waha'ala, Wahata Pa'arath, La'ay Malamyam. Amen.
Matthew chapter 6 verse 9. After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the glory and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. 10 Commandments. La'ah Yahaya. Lakah. Alahaya. Akhaya. Ayo. Panya.
Thou shalt have no other powers before me.
Number 2. La'ah. Tha'ina. Lakah. Basal. Wala'ah. Ta'ibada.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, nor serve them.
Number 3. La'ah. Thalach Sham. Yahweh. Bashua.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain.
Number 4. Zakar. Hayawam. Hashabat. Lakwadash.
Remember the Sabbath day too. Keep it holy.
Number 5. Kabad. Abaka. Ya'amaka.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Number 6. La'ah. Taratazah.
Thou shalt not kill, murder.
Number 7. La'ah. Tana'ah.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Number 8. La'ah. Taganah.
Thou shalt not steal.
Number 9. La'ah. Ta'ina. Shakwar.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Number 10. La'ah. Ta'khmat. Ashura. La'raika.
Thou shalt not covet anything which is thy neighbor's.
Hashem Yahshai.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law.
Israel Yeshablim.
Everybody seated?
All right, y'all. Hope everybody's doing well today. We are back at it in this this entire process dealing with the Greeks. Today's class is going to get a little, we're going to really paint the picture of what Hellenism looks like. And we've been reading over these last few weeks about the heavy push for the Hebrews to become Hellenized and become part of the institution that drives and fuels this Hellenistic movement. And, you know, when you sit back and hear about Hellenism on television, you know, what likes to be, I guess, focused or emphasized is heightened culture, heightened education.
It was civilization.
Heightened art. Everything was heightened. Everything,
so much better.
Everything was just on another level and augmented. Huh? We're going to need a guy.
Not so loud.
Which one you want?
Whoever.
Okay.
We need that. Because if I want to, so everything is augmented on another level, and what we have to explain, we're going to explain what this augmentation really looks like, and what left off last week was High Priest Onias was pushed out the way and was replaced by his brother Jason. And now Jason sat back here and went to King Antiochus and promised Antiochus more monies and a greater augmentation of the Greek push.
Can I read one point real quick?
Okay.
It says, Greek civilization, a cornerstone of Western thought and culture, flourished in the Mediterranean region from the 8th century BC to the 6th century AD, characterized by independent city-states and contributions to philosophy, democracy, art, and more.
Yeah, that's the point. The way the image is kind of initiated, where there's so much art, so much intelligence, so much of a heightened
architecture too.
All this malarkey has been established with the idea that the Greek way is just so valuable, so important, and it really helped develop. I know he's here. Okay. It helped to. I need you up front. But it helped enhance the civilizations that Hellenism kind of embarked on. So we're going to sit back here.
And anybody else was a barbarian.
Yes.
Khan. Everybody else was a barbarian if you didn't tap into this Enlightenment movement. So we're going to sit back here and kind of peel the layers off this onion to explain what Hellenism really was and the major negative effect it had on the Hebrew community. So the first verse we're going to go into is 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 10. We're going to get you saluted in Kariah.
Kariah, Shah Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashah.
Kariah, Shah Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashah. Amaju. Yahweh Hashem Yahshabbatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshabbatah.
Yahshabbatah. Okay.
Come. 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 10. Which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into
Matter of fact, read verse 9 real quick.
Come. 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 9. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise.
So Jason is sitting back here and brokering how he can be justified to take the high priesthood and remove Onias. And he's saying, listen, if you give me the license to open up a gymnasium in Jerusalem, then I can give you 150 talents more in revenue once we get started when we set up this gymnasium. So read on.
And for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen.
Now we're going to go into more specifics explaining how you train up youth in the fashion of the heathen. We're going to go into that in a little bit. But he is sitting back here and promising Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth that he was going to sit back here and set up gyms, teach the youth. And as we know, that how you develop society from the ground up, you have to sit back here and teach the young people how to operate a certain way. Eventually, the old will pass away and fade out. You got to go with the youth and change how they look at things. If you can fix the youth, the rest of the generations will follow accordingly. So that was the thinking. And Antiochus was down with putting him in power. Because first of all, when you read in verse 8 and 9, that, what's his name, Jason, was going to supply Antiochus with more money, greater talents, and additional talents for making this gymnasium. Read on.
And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus.
And he was going to change the name of the city to Antiochia. And he was going to change how the people were communicated to as Antiochians. This is what was happening all throughout the different countries. The names of these cities were being changed to Greek names. The names of these cities were being switched up. And this is how they helped change the culture. Change the name of the city. Like, for instance, Tyre and Zidon was changed to Phoenicia. That was a Greek name. And a lot of cities in the area were being changed that way. So, these are all the deals that Jason was trying to establish with Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus, who wouldn't want your city to be named after Antiochus? So, this fed right into his ego. But let's continue.
Verse 10. Which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule.
So once the sales pitch came through, Antiochus loved the PowerPoint presentation, more money, initially off the rip, which meant Israel had to get taxed, then additional revenue from the gymnasium, then the city was going to be named Antiochia. All these things were done to augment Antiochus Epiphanes' ego, the Greek movement, and it awarded Jason the position he wanted. All he had to do was sell out the Israelite culture and put a permanent stain on the youth of the nation. That's the consequence. But let's continue.
God.
What it shows in a very small microcosm of life, when you don't have the spiritual tools necessary to lead, you can still lead if you compromise right and wrong.
That's a great point.
That's the catch. Because people forget that Jason was looked over for the high priesthood by Antiochus' brother, Seleucus IV. Seleucus IV said, you're not the guy. You don't got the morals and the character to sit back here and lead the nation. So they chose Onias. Seleucus didn't back Jason. So that lets you know off rip that Jason was the older brother, but lacked the necessary spiritual skills and discipline to lead the nation properly.
Is it similar? Is the threat that threat similar to when we had to split the kingdom and we had the one brother, I think it was Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and they stopped worshiping the Most High in the same area?
Well, it wasn't that, because Jeroboam was ambitious and industrious and had the tools. He had the tools to lead. Jeroboam had shown, even Solomon had used Jeroboam to do a lot of the work to put the heavy levies on the northern kingdom. So Jeroboam had the leadership skills to do the job. He just chose to sit back here and follow idolatry. What I'm saying is Jason didn't have the tools to lead, but he still wanted to lead. So his ambition got in the way. And instead of Jason working on his spirit and backing Onias and learning how to lead, he sat back and had his same negative habits and got to the top by negative ways, by compromising right and wrong and putting the nation in jeopardy. That happens to a lot of people.
That's the only thing he had to offer.
But a lot of people get to the top that way. They don't do things the right way. They don't stay disciplined. They don't commit to the craft. They go the easy way, because the easy way, you got to compromise what you believe in, but you get what you want. So either in order to get to the top, you do things the right way and fix what's inside of you, or you go back door and you possibly can get what you want by compromising right from wrong.
So if
and when you do that, that's when the Most High sits back here and stings you down the line, and your reward is eternal damnation.
Yeah.
Because in order to gain, you have to lose something.
Huh?
Everything's a trade-off.
So either you're going to lose the flesh or lose your soul. Because this is the play that Jason did. He gave up his soul to get to the top. And he compromised the soul and spirit of his entire nation to get to the top. And went on for last week how this act was pretty much the nail in the coffin to the end of us. Remember when we read in Jeremiah? Jeremiah said Israel's about to fall because of the sins of Manasseh. So literally, Manasseh did all the wickedness in the nation, and the nation was able to still sustain for maybe 80 to 100 years after Manasseh. But it was already over after Manasseh did the wickedness. You can sit back here and argue after what happened here as we thoroughly go through it. Even though we fought to restore, that was the beginning of the end for us. That was around 164 BC. This was the beginning of the end. Christ had to come, and it was over. Because we showed once again that the priesthood, you couldn't even have faith in the priesthood. So if you can't have faith in the priesthood, Christ got to show how to do it, and then he's got to go and die for the nation. And then after that, what's left?
Structure.
Now, you might have Israelites scattered throughout the world that are teaching the word, but as a nation and a whole, we're done. The infrastructure was destroyed.
Who's the last hope, pretty much?
Done. Point is, I'm not trying to get super deep with this, but Jason shows you can get to the top by selling yourself out and selling your spirit out, or Onias showed that you can sit back and get to the top by working on what's inside of you and making your commitment about fixing the things inside of you. Which path do you want to take? So, let that go. Let's read verse 10 again.
Fine. 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 10. Which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand to rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
Now, the clothes change. You think fringes were being worn now? If the high priest wasn't wearing fringes, and he was wearing togas, what do you think the rest of the people were doing? As the head is, so are the officers. So he strolls to the temple in his newest Greek outfit stunting on everybody and everybody's wearing fringes, and all of a sudden they feel weak. They feel insecure. Think about y'all when you were in school. If you were a young person, you were wearing fringes in school. How did you feel wearing fringes in school? Like the oddball? How do you feel wearing fringes at work? You better be confident, because you're gonna be looked upon like you're a weirdo. You're gonna get looked over like, what's going on with this guy?
You feel like you don't belong.
And I'm gonna say, back in the day, Israel didn't have fringes like they got now. This is new stuff. You know, you go to Joanne Fabric, get your little strings at the bottom, and you can sit back here. You can get away with wearing Greek fashion. Listen, we're still wearing Greek fashion. We're wearing American Greek fashion with some strings at the bottom. Back in the 90s, if you was going to be about that action, you was wearing a gi. You was wearing a karate gi with thick, super thick fringes at the bottom. It was a long sleeve gi, fringes everywhere, heavy ass gi, was hot as hell, boots and big ass leather belts, leather girdles. How you think that would look at the mall? Like a cry.
They ain't gonna buy from me.
I'm not buying off this guy. Who's this guy? Listen, that's all you had back in the day was gis. That's all the level of fashion Israel got. So Israel was wearing gis out, heavy ass gis. Then was wearing judo gis, which is even heavier and hotter. And I remember that weight of those garments out, because you had the leather on, the suede leather on all on the back and the arms. It was like wearing chainmail out.
Like Conan the Barbarian.
It was chainmail leather, right? I don't know if you ever wore chainmail. I wore it for a passive garment one time. I was having problems. I was having difficulties breathing. I was like, why am I panting? Like read this scripture. Hurry up and get through that Exodus 12. So I can take this thing off. It was like an extra 15 pounds on my body with the headpiece. Point is, that's what we wore back early in the 90s, and the looks you would get is like, who are these guys and what's the hell's going on? So imagine that reversed. Now you got the head guy wearing Greek clothes and everybody else wearing Israelite clothes. Now they began to become ashamed of Hebrew fashion and start adjusting and adapting to Greek fashion. And it didn't take long. This example, this cancer, started infiltrating in the nation. We know the Tobias were heavy into the Greeks, so they were pushing the Greek fashion also. You had the Tobias wearing Greek clothing. You had the high priest pushing the Greek way. Then before you know it, the other priests were going to push it, and it trickled down. It trickled down to everybody else in the city, the poor, the regular folk. Everybody started dressing it. Okay?
I want to get something out of this book.
Please do.
This is page 117 of the Jews in Ptolemaic Egypt.
I kind of put this.
Yeah, because if you can put it on there.
I'm trying. I gotta email it to them.
Oh, okay. It says the Hellenization process.
His belly out. His stomach got it.
I know. He got a little pot belly going on. He said the Hellenization process affected the Jews even more. In Alexandria, the Jewish community had begun to show signs of the most active intellectual growth, and the results of that growth, naturally enough, wore a Greek dress. So if you wore the Greek dress represented you're an intellectual.
There you go, peer pressure. Right?
That's how you separated yourself from other people. And then, one more thing on this Greek dress, because it has a name. It says, this is page 123. It says, since the essentials were maintained, the only step necessary to turn a Syrian into a Greek was to purchase a Hymation and change his name. So this is a Hymation, a Greek.
Look at online, y'all. This is Hymation gear.
Yeah, this
is guess. This is the new guess outfit.
You're a smart guy. This is intellectual.
This is a suit. This is a 3-piece suit.
You're a poet. You're a scholar.
Yep.
You're a philosopher.
This was the Greek 3-piece suit. This is why everybody in the world wears a 3-piece suit, because the white man said it's high fashion.
It's hot.
Listen, the Japanese man got out of his kimono, his ancient garb, put on a white man's suit. The Chinese man, the same thing. Because the white man said it's high fashion. You can show your nipples and your belly out.
I don't even know why they even look like it's just Drake.
How was this hot fashion? What happens when it gets cold? What are you gonna do? All it is. When I see something like this, it's easy access. You just throw it on and you throw it on and you throw it off out, and you can do whatever you want to do easier. There's nothing else to this that makes this important.
It looks like loungewear. It looks like you just got out the shower.
Yeah.
You ain't
So this is what High Priest Jason was throwing on and walking around and strutting like he was the pimping. I'm gonna get your sucker out.
Yeah.
Remember he was walking around with his shoes that had like fishing and that, walking around like he was doing something special.
Yep.
This is what High Priest Jason was rocking.
He looks stupid.
And pushing and getting Israel to think this is what's hot in the streets.
Because remember, Most High said we're supposed to wear trousers.
Yeah. And breeches to cover
breeches.
your
That
body.
has nothing to do with trousers.
And it was about covering your body.
It's nearly a dress.
I know this. It's nearly a dress. And you had to do this, and like Shamshawan said, the next step is once Jason got Israel to rock the clothes, the next step was changing your name.
That's it. That's all you had to do.
Because Jason already changed his name. His name was Jesus. How was Shai? He changed it to Jason. So he was a living example of how to be. So now Israel was like, man, I just got to change my name. What's my name? What's my name mean in Greek? I know what my name is now. What's my name in Greek?
Yeah.
Kratos. Whatever the hell, Kratos. I know my name Kratos. Whatever the hell it is.
Let me get a Greek equivalent.
Yeah, well, what's that Greek equivalent to Hebrew? Abad or Kazakh or whatever the hell it is. And all of a sudden you're changing your name Greek, you're wearing togas, and you're coming off like you're doing something important and special. A lot of it was about the image and how people felt about themselves.
It was hairy body too.
Whatever was happening, Israel didn't feel confident in who they were. That was what Jason was attacking when he was changing his clothes. He was changing his clothes and making Israel feel that how they dress and their culture was outdated. It was out the spirit. It wasn't what was hip right now. And Israel could succumb to the peer pressure. When that peer pressure hits.
And it shows you too that classism was worse than racism.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was more. You're not sophisticated.
Yes.
If you're not wearing the Greek dress code.
Yes.
You're not a sophisticate. You're not articulate. You know.
Yes.
So it just shows
classism was heavy.
It's classism. It's where you fit, and that was big amongst the Greeks.
Yes. And then it started trickling out and making it big amongst the world.
Yeah.
Because you're just a low level ass Jew. Your scripture, what Bible, what none even matters. How are you dressing? How are you rolling? Are you elevating? And this is the psychological warfare that our children experience. This is the psychological warfare that we face in ourselves. Do you have the spiritual courage to stand on your own 2 feet and stand up for who you are and what your culture is? Because Esau is very good at making you feel low about who you are and inferior about what you are and who you are.
I remember that it was that Abercrombie and Finch era years ago where it was just like if you weren't wearing this type of clothing, and this is amongst Greek fashions, you weren't accepted. It's a feeling of not being.
Yes. I went to a Jake Preppy school. I've been to Jake Hood schools, Jake Preppy schools. If you didn't wear the newest fashion, Jake was clowning you first.
Yeah.
Jake would clown you if you didn't have jabos on. Remember jabos?
Yeah.
You weren't wearing jabos, you was getting hammered out. Jabos, yes. Listen, nobody cared if you had cross colors or not. But if you didn't have them other stuff out, it was a problem.
Or Z Cavaricis.
Yes.
If you didn't have Z Cavarici.
Z Cavarici?
Yeah, Z Cavarici was big. Then you had to have the African medallion on your neck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I wanted one of those. I wanted one of those bad act back in the day.
It was at the flea market.
Yeah. John.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say too, man. I experienced that a lot, especially where I grew up at. But what I'm getting from y'all is it's crazy how we got that mentality, we got that influence, but then it's even amongst our own people too.
Yeah.
Like War was saying, like our people clowning us, like you had, some cheap shoes on or being
Yeah.
the latest
But
Jordan on.
that's Jake.
I experienced that.
That's the problem. A rich listen, Jake that had money, you can't tell Jake with money nothing. Jake, that the princes that got something in their pocket, I got a little more than you. They gonna make you feel like this.
Yeah.
Esau will just kind of like ignore you.
Yeah, don't look at it.
Their hate is different than Jake's hate. When Esau don't like being around you, they'll just sit back here and be very short and curt with you. They say little sharp, little rude comments and move on with their life. Jake, what do you got? You look how tight these pants are.
Yeah.
Everybody look at this cat. Everybody look at this guy.
Yep.
That's not.
And then they'll force you to have to punch him to get him to stop. You almost got to fight the dude to get him to stop. Because they're coming at you the next day and the next day. You know it's the truth. Listen, when Jake's clowning you out, they make you feel bad.
Yep.
What kind of shoes you got on today, man?
What are those?
What's going on here?
the hell you doing?
Listen, then you're sitting back here and saying, "Then do I gotta fight this nigga out? What do I gotta do to get this guy off my back?"
Yeah. You wore those yesterday.
Exactly. That's Jake.
You wore those on Monday.
It's Friday night.
Yeah.
You ain't got 5 outfits, man. What's going on with you, bro? Oh man.
Oh, you swapping clothes, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Your brother wore that shirt yesterday. Now you wearing it.
This nigga like, yeah, look at that. Look at that.
He did wear that shirt.
That's it.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, the lights are on. Everybody's looking at you like this. You did have that shit on yesterday, bro. I remember that, dog. What do you gotta say about it? You gonna lie? So you gonna say you got the same shirt as he got?
He got one like mine.
He had a tear right here. I saw that tear yesterday, this dude. Then you know that, then you corner that.
And then it doesn't stop there because.
Then you corner that.
Because listen, everybody likes it, but then people come back around. Hey man, I heard you. It
gets around. You can't go to school unless you're just hoping you can weather the storm and somebody else to get focused on. Don't
sit at the lunch table with him, man. You gonna get gone in.
But you better go hoop or something. You better play some sports. You better do something. Yeah. You better do a report. You better do something to get out of these people's eyes.
But you know that you get shamed. The streets will shame you.
Yes, they will.
But when you get in the upper echelon environments, they'll shame you too. You know,
it's just a refined.
This is a black tie affair.
Mm-hmm.
This is a black tie affair. What are you doing?
And they're looking at you like this.
Yeah.
That's just as bad. That's uncomfortable as hell.
Is that a half break in your pants or a full break?
Oh, you don't know.
Oh, you don't know, do you?
You don't know which fork to use for dinner.
Yeah. Using a soup spoon.
Yes, instead of.
It's gotten worse now. Like, you don't even have to go to that individual to joke them. You just give them a little video. You put it on the internet. It's over.
Viral stuff is. I can imagine viral stuff is way worse than just being in your class. But this is the level of pressure. Jason, the Tobias, all the princes were pushing on everybody else. So a lot of people were folding. And then we read earlier about the violence that was kicking in too. You had guys that was putting hands on you if you were resisting. If you showed resistance from the Greek way. So this was a real issue. People were putting hands on you. You felt low, you felt embarrassed, you felt inadequate. These are the same things that attack us when the Most High is trying to teach us to have courage in who we are, in our dress and our culture. It's the same issue. So he starts off with the implementation of the dress code. And like Shamshuan said, what's next is the changing of the names. So you can tell a lot of young people were changing their names. The movement was going at the youth. This is what Jason was saying. I'm going to get these youth to tap into the heathenist fashion. So the youth were getting indoctrinated with the dress code and the changing of the outfits. And hey, Dad, you're old school. I'm new school. And this new school stuff, they didn't realize as we read on what's next in this new school stuff. So read verse 11.
Second Maccabees chapter 4, verse 11. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amenity and aid, he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law.
Stop. So what they said is, okay, the Jews they're registering their name from Jerusalem to Antiochia. So now what we're going to do, we're going to stop sending aid for these sacrifices because now you are a Greek government. Also, what we're going to have to do is to institute a law office or a government building in the city of Antiochia to make sure there's somebody there to help you guys with the implementation of the Greek laws. They're not going to let you register as a Greek city unless they put a Greek building or a Greek structure or a Greek governmental structure in your city. So you could start seeing how the succession of things were happening. Fashion was kicking in. Fashion was changing. They were sitting back here and putting what do you call it? There's a Bexar County municipal office downtown in San Antonio where you go and all your legal questions are answered, and they have city activities and city functioning and city teaching of how, if there's a discrepancy in the law, this is what you do. You go here, you do this application, right? This is what's happening in the Greek land. In Israel. There is a Greek municipality that's being set up in Jerusalem to help establish the law of the Greeks right in the same area where the temple was. The temple was the place where all the legal issues were dealt with. That's what the temple was there for. That's what the high priests were there for. But they rescinded that. They rescinded the temple as being the office and the place where the law was being kept. And said, okay, since you guys want to be Antiochia, why are we going to give you help you with sacrifices to establish your law? You want to do the Greek law now.
Yeah, we're going to cut off this grant money.
Yes.
Because that's all it is, grant money to keep the sacrifices going.
So now we're going to cut the grant money because you're a Greek city now. So now we got to sit back and bring a Greek municipal building, a jail. We're going to sit back and implement our laws and the place that backs these laws. So now you got Greeks in there, or people that are represented the Greek way, that are in Jerusalem teaching people in the city how to operate in this Greek way now.
Well, if the Greek dresses, if they're wearing Greek clothes, if they're changing the name to Greek names, then they want Greek citizenship. Now, if you want Greek citizenship, you're going to be treated like a Greek citizen.
That's the point.
But you're not going to be looked at as a Jew.
That's the point. It's a trade-off. There's Greek municipalities, there's Greek laws, there's Greek dress code, there's Greek ways now you have to learn how to operate our way now. So, but then you can't sit back here and follow the Greek penal code and municipal code and the Hebrew laws. They're different.
Yep.
You can do what you want to do on the Sabbath. You can sit back here and eat what you want to eat. And there's no consequence for that. So now you're no longer under the laws of that temple. And we're going to teach you how and what laws you're supposed to abide by. Now, what's pushed? Freedom. Freedom is pushed into the city. You got half to more than half people are cook. Now they're sitting back here and cooking pork ribs.
Because it's no longer illegal.
That's my point. Now I'm cooking pork. I'm sitting back here cooking ribs. I'm cooking sausages. We having cookouts on Sabbaths.
It's nothing wrong with it.
And now all of a sudden,
in their mind,
a bazaar or what do you call it?
A shrimp house.
A shrimp house.
A shrimp house in crawfish is being broken open.
Yep.
And sucking the heads of crawfish.
Or a pulga. There's a pulga down the street. And now there's a flea market open on Saturdays. Now you can go shop on Saturdays. The whole thing is opened up. And you got a handful of people trying to stay strong. And the other folks, you see them walking around and buying and selling on Sabbath, chilling, smiling, cooking. You're smelling this unfamiliar smell of pork. Hey, why don't you try this, man? Hey, it's okay. It's lawful now. They set it up there at the office. You see how things are falling apart by the seams?
Now you got a new younger class of toga wearers,
Yeah.
and then high nation wears.
Yeah.
And then now you got these Jews with fringes, and that you could already see it being a
The
conflict.
clash. Do you get the young folks partying on the Sabbath, wearing toga clothes, doing foul things with one another, right? Which you're going to in a second. The whole culture of Israel, of the Jew, is turning upside down.
But the manners that other parents, other children have an effect on your children, because your children are trying to be Hebrew. You want your house to be Hebrew, but then their friends are becoming Greek.
And
So
then you know how hard it is.
That's hard.
To correct anybody when somebody has the option to do something else without being checked. You know how hard it is to correct anybody if a person that you're checking don't have to stay at this house. I don't have to abide by this either. I have other options.
Yes.
Now, by law, you don't have. I don't got to do this. By law, I don't got to follow this way no more.
Yeah.
Now it's just your opinion. Now it's just your opinion. Now you're overboard. Now you're extreme.
Or you're old fashioned.
Because now the standard of how to live has dropped significantly.
You see it. You see it when your grandmother tell your cousins, you're not going outside the house like that. Where do you think you're going dressed like that?
You're old school, Grandma.
Yeah.
That was back in the day.
You don't got a slip under the dress.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a bra.
They don't even sell slips, Grandma, anymore. They don't even sell them anymore, Grandma. What's crazy? They don't even have a lot of options for slips. They don't really sell them. Because I was trying to say they don't have a lot of access to slips. There's all of a sudden Forever 21 starts popping up in Jerusalem.
Forever 21.
There's like two Forever 21s. There's Forever 21 North and Forever 21 South in Jerusalem.
There's an Ulta.
There's an Ulta.
There's an Ulta, the Forever 21.
That's what I'm saying. But like, what's happening to Jerusalem?
And a Victoria's Secret.
And Victoria's Secrets. It was really it's the other Victoria's Secret for them boys, but we'll go into that in a little bit because it wasn't even really pushing. Anyway, I don't want to spill the beans on that, but yes, it was that. So read that again, verse 11.
Second Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 11. It says, and the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid, he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law.
They brought up new customs against the law. New systems of government, new systems of operation. I'm going to prove this, though. In the book, The History of Israel, of Ancient Israel, page 208, it said, Jason also purchased another and even more startling privilege from the king. This consisted of nothing less than the transformation of Jerusalem into a city with Greek institutions, or possibly a Greek communal organization. Politumia, or Politima, was established alongside and in addition to the temple-controlled Jewish community. When you read into Politima is a Greek governmental structure set up in Jerusalem. It was just a Greek governmental house and a building that was set near the temple. The temple was the law. It was the connection with the Most High. There wasn't a separation of church and state with amongst Israel. Amongst the Greeks, you had a separation of church and state. You did what you did for Zeus and the pantheon of gods, but then you had your Greek law and order on top of that. So now all of a sudden, they're trying to teach the Jew that there's a separation of church and state. Well, you can believe in your God, but this is the least you can do to not get in trouble with us. So now you decrease the expectation.
You just watered the standard down.
So then you can tell the young people, like, yeah, I believe in Yah, but these laws that the Greeks are pushing, we're going to follow this. You can do both. How come you can't do both? You can see that sentiment rolling all throughout the city. The city is completely falling apart. And now you're getting the backing. When Onias was there, he would sit back here and shut down all of that crap from the top. So they were just rumbling at the bottom. Now it's like, okay, it's a free-for-all. Whatever you want to push Greek, let's push it. You don't think Jake, that was opportunistic, was going to these Greek buildings, that Greek governmental building, and finding out what he can do by the law and set up institutions and businesses the Greek way in Jerusalem?
Finding loopholes.
You don't think they was, okay, let me sit back here and open up some stores on Sabbath and see how much money I can make there. All kind of opportunistic angles were coming through with this Greek governmental house inside of Jerusalem. That was called Politumia. So it just lets you know how this is getting out of hand very quickly. Dress code, changing of names, government structures. Now this gymnasium is under construction. Also, there's so many things happening while the high priests really weren't pushing high priest things. It's not like they were sitting back here and still going to
honoring the sacrifices.
Yes, that wasn't even happening. So let's keep that in mind. We
you
finished
can't
verse
play
11.
both games. Israel tries for a small period of time to play both sides, and then you only have so much time in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pick a side.
Good.
Probably people that were trying to be gray, trying to be in the middle.
Good.
So they didn't want to look bad to the Hebrews. They didn't look bad to the Greeks.
But you can't play that game.
But
Very hard to play it.
But there was a very strong amount of people doing that. After a while, it's like, you know what? This is just how life is.
Yep. The minutes give in. Because verse 14 tells you that even the priest said, why am I wasting my time with this law thing?
So I'm saying.
Why would I sit back and reason killing animals for what reason, bro? Everybody's over there at the Greek house, at the Alpha Sigma Alpha.
Yeah.
Having fun, huh?
Well, look, you're hearing stories. You're coming back, people like, oh, we had a good time. Oh, we did this. These are things that you hear, but you can't participate in.
Yeah. And then you can't enforce it. Listen, you can't no longer enforce penalties for breaking the law.
Yeah.
The high priest ain't even enforcing it.
It's over.
The high priest is not enforcing the law as the standard of how to live. If the high priest ain't doing it, everybody's going to follow them. That's like if we sit back here as teachers and stop making Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays mandatory, are people going to start still studying and coming to class on those days if we don't push it?
Or if we start wearing shorts and tank tops and basketball clothes on the podium.
Then guess what? Who's going to wear fringes to class? Who's going to take this serious? Nobody's going to take it serious if the leadership don't take it serious. It's just that simple. So, with that being the case, now I'm going to read periodically through this class just some different manuscripts and writing on the time. This writing comes from the Jewish Encyclopedia under the word Hellenism. So you can look it up yourselves, Jewish Encyclopedia, Hellenism. And it's a lot of writings. I'm just going to kind of skip to the more significant parts. So once again, Jewish Encyclopedia, Hellenism. It says, range of Hellenic influence. It said, except in Egypt, Hellenic influence was nowhere stronger than on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean. That means Tyre and Zidon, Philistia, all those countries on the coast that are neighbors to Israel. Okay? It says, Greek cities arose there in continuation, or in a place of the older Semitic foundations. The land of Canaan, the land of Philistia, they were heavily changing and transforming that coastline. It says, and gradually changed the aspect of that country. Such cities were Raphia. Read about Raphia being a place where Antiochus III fought a major war with the Ptolemaic king. Raphia is in Philistia. And it says Gaza, Ascalon. This is all major cities in Philistia. Azotus, Jabna, Jaffa, that's going up north. Caesarea, Dor, and Ptolemais. These are all cities that were once one name and were changed to others. It was especially in eastern Palestine that Hellenism took a firm hold, and the cities of the Decapolis, which seems to have included Damascus, were the centers of Greek influence. So what that's saying is Damascus is east of Israel. Damascus is in Syria. So you're saying now the far west, all around the west, the west of Israel, along the coast, they were Greek, many cities. Then the east of Israel and Syria, they were Greek also. So this Greek influence was surrounding us. Then it said, this influence extended in latter times over the whole district east of the Jordan and the Sea of Gennesaret. The cities in western Palestine were not accepted. Samaria and Panias were at an early time settled by Macedonian colonists. Samaria was our direct north neighbor. They were Greek. Everybody to the west of us was Greek. Everybody to the east of us was Greek. Okay? Then it says the names, places were Hellenized. Rabbath Ammon, which is to the east, the Ammonite country, to Philadelphia. Moab, which is Moab, to Hierapolis. Akko to Ptolemais. The names occurred with personal names. The same occurred with personal names. Like Shamswana said, you change the name of the city, then the people in there, the leadership changes their name. They change their clothing style. This is the beginning of Hellenistic influence. The same occurred with personal names. Honi, meaning Onias, became Menelaus. Joshua became Jason, or Jesus. So Jesus changed his name to Jason. That's the high priest did this. Onias, which was the name of one of the high priests, or one of the high priest's sons, changed his name to Menelaus also. The Hellenic influence pervaded everything, meaning swept through every aspect of culture. And even in the very strongholds of Judaism, it modified the organization of the state, the laws and public affairs, art, science, and industry, affecting even the ordinary things of life and the common associations of the people. So this Greek way changed every way of how the Hebrews operated in life. I'm going to focus on one specific thing in a second that really changed how we looked at life and people itself. It said the Hellenists were not confined to the aristocratic class, meaning the elites, but were found in all strata of Jewish society. What that means is the elites started the movement and it worked its way down to all different class levels. Middle class, upper class, middle class, and lower class. All the different class levels started adhering to this Hellenistic movement. Then it said, through the aristocrats naturally profited more from the goodwill of the Hellenistic rulers than did other classes. So what that lets you know is the leadership, they were getting financial deals, they were getting financial kickbacks, they were being elevated for pushing the Hellenistic movement. But the regular people, they didn't get nothing out the deal but changing their clothes and breaking the law and living foul.
Somebody was winning and eating.
But this is how it is now. What good is us? What good is it us following Esau? We're following Esau and getting nothing out the deal. Jake is following who? Jake is following gangsters. Bugsy Siegel, Al Capone. That's where gangsterism came from. Are we sitting back here and thriving, following their patterns of way of doing things? No, we're in jail.
Yeah.
They use rap music from the beginning to sit back here and sensationalize crime. And the consequence was what? Prison population rose. So they exploited that and made money off us that way.
They'll steal $200 million and then say it's white collar crime and get a slap on the wrist. You go to the bank, rob a bank for $2,000.
You out of there, bro.
You get life.
It's facts.
But that's the point. Following the Greek way didn't benefit the middle class and the poor. It only benefited the elites. Just like you see our people now. You'll see the rich of our people really push Esau's way, and they're the only ones that get paid. Everybody else just suffers still.
The Russell Simmons. Shaq
made this candy out, and they sold like 100 million pieces of this candy out. They're blowing up out. Shaq's making all the money out. He's cooning for everybody out. Pizza Hut, not Pizza Hut, Papa John's. Listen, Papa John's, the first owner, was racist, so they got rid of him. They canned him, put Shaq up there. They making money out. He's cooning for everybody out. He'll pitch everything.
Yep.
How much money is he getting back to the community? That's another story. But the elites, they'll push the way. Everybody else suffers. That's how it's always been. And I'm going to go down to the bottom part of this. There's more to it, but I don't want to focus too much on that. It said, but, he says, by the introduction of Grecian art, a door was opened to debauchery and riotous living. This is how we started breaking down culturally. One of the ways that Hellenism really started breaking us was through the Greek art. Greek art started shaking down our spiritual morals and foundations. I'm going to explain why. First thing is first. Let's go to the Josephus. Let's go to Against Apion, Book 2, and Chapter 6. Against Apion, Book 2, and Chapter 6. We're going to go to the middle of Chapter 6. Yeah. Against Apion, Book 2, the middle of Chapter 6, it's where you read, moreover, Apion would lay a blot upon us. It's in the middle.
I got book 2 against Apion. I got that.
Book 2 against Apion, paragraph 6.
Paragraph 6. Right.
Paragraph 6. It's in the middle, and it says, moreover, Apion would lay a blot upon us.
Is that moreover? Oh, right here, 73.
73. Come. Yes, I got it at the very bottom. Come. Page 797. Page 797. Come.
And we're going here to explain how art, the Greek art, was a door that was open to debauchery and riotous, wicked living.
Come.
This is why we're going here. Read on.
Come. Josephus against Apion, Book 2, line 73.
Paragraph 6.
Paragraph 6, line 73. Come. Moreover, Apion would lay a blot upon us because we do not erect images to our emperor.
So Apion was this guy who kept writing information attacking the validity and the character of how the Jew does things. And he was explaining that one thing that made the Jew like wicked was that we didn't erect images of our emperors. We didn't sit back here and make statues of our leaders in reverence of them. Okay? Read on.
God. As if those emperors did not know this before or stood in need of Apion as their defender.
So he's like, Apion is trying to sit back here, and all he's doing is attacking our culture, because in Apion's culture in Egypt, they sat back here and made images to their leadership and idolized them as gods. In Hebrew culture, we weren't supposed to make images of Moses and David and all the great prophets. That is idolatry.
Even putting animals on.
It's going to explain it, yeah. Okay. So all that is idolatry. So if that's idolatry, what really is idolatry? The spirit of art. A lot of art was, we weren't allowed to sit back here and venture into art as Hebrews, because a lot of art can be taken as idolatry or be referred to as a graven image. Let's continue.
It says, whereas he ought rather to have admired the benignity and modesty of the Romans, whereby they do not compel those that are subject to them that transgress the laws of their countries, but are willing to receive the honors due to them after such a manner as those who are to pay them esteem consistent with piety and with their own laws.
So he's saying the Romans were more focused on the respect and obedience of following their laws versus making images this number one thing. Well, let's continue.
For they do not thank people for conferring honors upon them when they are compelled by violence so to do.
Read on. Let's not focus on the Romans and how they do things. Focus on us. Read on.
Accordingly, since the Grecians and some other nations think it a right thing to make images, nay, when they have painted the pictures of their parents and wives.
So he says the Greeks think it's okay to just keep making images of things. He says even when they have painted the pictures of their parents, read on,
and wives and children, they exult for joy.
He said the Greeks sat back here and focused on family portraits and family pictures. That's what the Greeks did and found joy in it. Read on.
And some there are who take pictures for themselves of such persons as were no way related to them.
So then they say the Greeks sit back here and take pictures of their family, and they take pictures of loved ones, people that they just have an esteem for. Read on.
Nay, brought that.
Yeah.
Some take the pictures of such servants as they were found of. What wonder is it then if such as these appear willing to pay the same respect to their princes and lords?
So he says they sit back here and just paint pictures of anybody they have a proclivity for. So them making pictures of leadership, that's just what they do. They love taking pictures and making pictures and painting art of the people they're infatuated with either way.
Or their heroes.
Yeah, they're heroes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or their love interest. Read on.
Line 75. But then our legislator have forbidden us to make images.
So what does he says? The Hebrew culture, we weren't taking family portraits. We weren't taking. We didn't have a house full of pictures in the Hebrew houses. That kind of lets you. It's a blessing that we didn't, because we didn't get caught up in the graven images. But that's why you can't see a lot of pictures of black Hebrews in Jerusalem. That's why you don't have art connecting the Jew as being black in Jerusalem.
Until the Greek time period.
Until we got past the Greeks and the Romans, then you start seeing pictures of these great people later on. Like maybe in from the thousands on, or whatever the case is. Once the Greek ways start kicking in, then the Russian icons start kicking in, and all those older images during medieval times start coming through.
Wow.
So you weren't going to get any picture circa time of Christ with black people as a Jew. So you had to go into eyewitness accounts as to how they looked. So, but the Hebrew community didn't deal with art like that. So their house, they didn't have a bunch of portraits and pictures and family members, and that was considered graven images. And also that kept us tied into just our consciousness to the people that were right in front of us and the Heavenly Father. Because the Most High understands how art, if turned the wrong way, can get people to a debaucherous, wicked approach. And we're going to explain that in a second.
And we can say this. Art is a cultural weapon.
Affects
thinking. When you study art communicates a message. It's an advanced way or format of emanating an idea.
Yes.
Ideas are hidden in art.
Yes.
Every time period, from the 80s to the 60s to the 20s to the 30s, the 1800s, when you study the art,
it's marketing.
You know the culture. You know the mind of the people. Because people are attracted to art, and they always ask this question. Is art a reflection of reality, or is reality a reflection of art? That question is always stated. Why is it always stated? Because art is the consciousness of the people in that time period. In music, every era of music, which is an art form, is a snapshot of the consciousness of the people in that time period. Now we're dealing with the physical, visual media of art. And this is sanctioned from the elites. We thumb up this picture. Just like when you go to certain parts, you have a statue of Baphomet with 2 children at the courthouse, that was accepted. Somebody elite had to say, we accept this image. The same thing happens.
And we accept what this image represents.
We accept what this image represents. They're going to call it, they're going to put their rhetoric about it. It's about cultural freedom, what do they call it? Religious Freedoms Act, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These are the statements that justify what they want to push. This is why what the war is going to is powerful, because now we're seeing the power of these images on a people that had no images.
And that's why I said, it says, by the introduction of Grecian art, a door was opened to debauchery and riotous living. Think about, before Hellenism sunk its claws into the Hebrew community, we didn't have art. We didn't have self-portraits. Listen, even when you go into the temple, all you saw was some plants. All you saw was some plants and some basic...
Art is a weapon, like Daviah said, because when you look at a college football game, Bud Light is written all over the damn stadiums. Mm-hmm. And some of these kids are not even old enough to drink. They're not even 21 yet. But they're sponsored by alcoholic beverages. They're sponsored by cigarette companies. So you're in a sports arena, but you're being sold subconsciously by way of images and pictures. And you wonder why you want a Coors when you're on your way home. Like, man, I just got a taste for a Coors.
Exactly.
Like, man, I've been getting hit by the silver bullet.
Yeah. But you just saw people all over the world.
Yeah. Join hands.
Yeah. It's snowing out.
Yeah, everybody's black. And you got a black man with good voice act.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on the world train. The world train. Like, man, I'm having a good time on that video.
I'm a famous football player. And I'm also an actor.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate when I get time to relax and have some leisure.
I get a cold
I drink this
beer
right here.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're buying one.
Yeah.
You sold.
But if you don't get that, you get a beer that you like.
Yeah.
Bro, but once again, this is how propaganda is. This is how media is. It's based off imagery. Starts to take your mind the way that the people who create this image want you to go. And that's what's scary. And this is what's starting to infiltrate the Hebrew community. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to go online, try to get online, everybody in class and everybody watching. We're going to start showing what imagery was being pushed. What type of Greek art was our people sitting back here and watching? And what effect do you think it had on our psyche? Okay, so
because they say a picture's worth 1,000 words.
It's worth 1,000 words, and all of a sudden they're seeing. Now think about this: all these stores are opening up, all these shops. Now you're bringing Greek merch in here,
and restaurants.
Now you're bringing Greek restaurants. Now you're bringing in pottery. You're buying pictures. Now you're buying art. Now there's an art shop,
furniture.
There's an art gallery there now in Jerusalem. There's an art gallery, so you're buying art. You're bringing art home. Because this is the Greek culture. Think about what Greek art. We're going to show you Greek art. And they're taking this home to them and saying this is what's hot in the streets right here. Whether it's on papyrus paper or on pottery, this is the stuff we're starting to see.
And this is what the elite do.
This is what the elite do. This is a pot. Now, when you sit back and look at this pot, you're going to see the beards denote maturity, a mature man. So you got mature men hanging out here. They're sitting back here drinking and hanging out with 3 young boys. Now these young guys don't have no clothes on, and they don't have no beards.
They couldn't get dressed up.
Listen. They're sitting here hanging out. They're all together, all close together. They're in this little squat position in these weird yoga outfits or toga outfits, and they're passing drinks and cylinders away. This is the art. So if I've never really experienced art, And I started looking at art like this. And this is the most PG of everything I'm about to show you today. This is the most PG.
This is like going to do a move on a nice side of town and a mansion up. You're like, okay, cool, we got to do this move. You look at this person's house, and all this art. This art's nice. Look at this art. He's like, looking at it. Damn, what's going on? What's going on?
Have you guys ever seen like Greek art or that Roman art when they have the angels are butt naked?
Yes.
Or you'll sit back here, you'll see the creation scene, and the toga just slipped off his Johnsonite and it's on his thigh. It's like this.
Yeah.
Like what's going on here?
Or
it's like baby Cupid has his junk hanging out. Why is his junk hanging out? Can you just clothe the dude?
put a diaper on.
And show the point of the message. My grandparents had this book of all this classic art, and it was all heavy nudity in it. It was always that way. But think about a nation who's not used to this. There's a shock value there.
There's an effect.
There is an effect. Now listen, we're going to go to the next picture. Now you start seeing this.
Now what's the message?
What's going on here?
What is the message?
They're both lying on that bed.
Well, they're on a bed or like a flat out couch. And then you got to do with a beard and a dude without a beard. A young guy's on the left, an older guy's on the right,
and his hand is
and the guy's holding him like this. Listen, that's gay porn. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is gay porn. You're buying gay porn and bringing it home. And you're telling us that this is the Hellenistic way.
Art.
This is art. This is a new thing called art. Let's take it home. Yes, sir? This is the Greek time.
220, about 220.
Well, this is right before I would say like late ones, because the abomination destination was 164 BC. Mm-hmm. So this was before that. So I would say 190, 180 BC. But this is what's happening. You're looking at this, and you're taking images like this home. So the little boy got a little violin or some like harp or something playing. He's playing the harp. He's playing one arm. He's playing with the harp, and the other arm he's touching his chest out.
Yeah.
What is this about?
Bring, what's going on here?
The little boy's for entertainment.
That's what it's for.
He's an entertainer.
So you're sitting back here looking at this every day.
He's a Tevin Campbell.
This is a nudie mag. It's the same effect that a nudie mag would give you. Yes.
Did the Macedonians bring that type of art?
The Greeks. This is the Greek way. Yeah.
Greeks are Macedonians are Greeks.
Yes.
I know before they were but they weren't always Greeks, were they?
No, they were.
Okay.
They're a part of Greek city states. The Greeks were a bunch of Greek city states. They had their own individual city states. Like Corinth had their own city state. Athens had their own city state. The Dorian section had their own city state. The Thebes had their own city state. So it wasn't until Alexander, what Alexander did was just unite all the Greeks together. Because they were warring with each other.
Well, Philip did.
Philip of Macedonia. Yeah, so he just united all the Greek city states and put them together as one country.
Now this is the thing. Remember in 300 when the black guy said earth and water.
Yeah.
Just sit back here and bow the knee, and you guys will be fine. And then it kind of came out that the Athenians said no. And then Leonidas said, if those boy lovers said no, how are we gonna not say no? They called them boy lovers. Watch that. Leonidas called them boy lovers. Just what you see on this picture. This is what they were doing. This is Greek culture, and that movie was done right when the Persian and Median Empire was at its height. That was back then. They were on that tip. So this is nothing new under the sun. This is when they were all separated Greek countries. They were still on that fagonal stuff. So now we're here in the hundreds BC, and we're starting to purchase art. But this is art. So no, we're purchasing gay porn and taking it home. And the imagery starts, is what does it say? It says, by the introduction of Grecian art, a door was opened to debauchery and riotous living. The door was open to this type of lifestyle. Now there's a curiosity. What is it about this? Maybe this art is telling me something I need to tap into. There's more horrible pictures.
You know what this is? This is something that you have not experienced.
Come.
This is a...
And this is part of sophistication.
Yeah, but this if you want to have... They call it a social mobility. Social mobility is a concept where you have the right, or you should have the right, to go up the class ladder in society based off the freedom of the government. If the government guarantees the freedom, it should give the opportunity. Every man has the opportunity to have upward social mobility. Well, guess what? When you want to socially mobilize and go up the ladder of class, you must partake in that sector of class.
This is a picture. What you're seeing online now is a wall painting of what you saw here. Okay? Now, that picture, what you saw just now, was one in the far right-hand corner. They just took the far right-hand corner picture. Now you get a closer picture. They're under the sheets.
What's going on now?
They're under the sheets out with each other. Right? This is pillow talking. Right? They pillow talking. It is. And this is at a public place where this can go down. What do you think kind of public place can happen where men come together and they share space and they get close with each other?
Main Street.
A gymnasium.
Oh.
Gymnasium. Gymnasium, the Greek word for gymnasium is gymnos. Gymnasium came from the word gymnos, which means naked. To be naked. It's a gym. It's a place where the mentor, and it is why, like what I'm saying, is the YMCA is about mentorship. It's about the adult mentor guides the young person through life, and it's there for him to help teach him the ways of being a man in return for...
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it too.
I'm gonna go there. I don't want to go there yet. Not yet. I just want to kind of focus and drive the art aspect. We'll go on to the societal aspect about what that means. But I just want to show, just on an art level, this is what was... Where you going, sir? You ain't going to be in class? You want to watch cartoons with the kids? No. Come on, you over here. How old are you? Bro, come on, man. They're watching like Blue's Clues out there or something like that, or Teletubbies, huh? Come on, you don't watch Teletubbies with 4-year-olds? They're babies. How old is your next youngest son? How about the next one? Come on, man. If you want to, you can go there, but you're not going to learn nothing there. You're not going to learn nothing at all. It's up to you, bro. Why come to class if you're going to watch cartoons with the kids? That don't make sense either. So we're here. This art is what we're taking home and consuming. Well, we're sitting back here and making it ours culturally.
That's not Hebrew culture.
Listen, we didn't have art because the Most High knew when you open that art door, it opens the door for all type of carnal debauchery. That's why he's like, don't even deal with any of these images because it leads you the wrong way. And this is the worst. They was buying this by the bucket loads.
That's the hell of a
This is the worst. Look at the age differential between the one person and the other.
Is that flowers?
Look at the image.
Is that flowers in his arm?
Bro, listen. You got and look at where the older man's hand is.
Yeah.
Look at where the older man's hand is in comparison to the other person. That person to the right had to be 14 years old at the most.
At the most.
Yes. Look at his hand.
It's the Greek.
And this is Greek sophistication.
Yeah.
This is Greek wisdom.
He has a staff right there.
This is Greek talent. This is bravo. This is a great artistic piece. Great, bravo.
Wow.
And this is what our people were sitting back here saying, yeah, we're going to be about this life. We choose this.
So the USA aid money was going to.
The U.S. aid money was going to this side. Kind of. But this is what's going on. But look at this. Look how he introduced and connected with the dude. The dude, the young boy has his hand behind the head, and the guy is going with his left hand. And what's going on here, right?
It's a meet and greet.
And think about this. And I'm going into this, and I'm explaining this example of pornography because think about in the 40s. Women in bathing suits was getting people crazy. Remember back in the 40s? And you sit back and they start showing the de-evolution of society, bathing suits and just lingerie. People was losing their mind. Am I right or wrong? People couldn't handle seeing lingerie in a woman. Now that's nothing nowadays, but back then that was shock value.
She's overdressed at this point.
Exactly.
In this day and age.
And then think about back in those days, what type of impact this had on people's mind and psychological scenario. They were going crazy on this. Yes, Mike.
Oh man, somebody told me when I was in college that if I wanted to make some extra money, right? That's it.
Yeah.
I did not. When this dude told me this, I couldn't believe it until I actually.
Yeah, do something strange for change.
You can actually get nude
Yeah.
and take pictures of the nude in college.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you got to kill.
Yeah.
Yes. You
Yeah.
can actually go to college
Yeah.
and they'll pay you $8 an hour.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. I said, well, maybe if it's a work it's all women. But then I said, that's just not right. I didn't do it.
That teacher wasn't.
I didn't do
That
it.
teacher was like
Because
this.
there's men in there.
Don't move.
No,
Don't move.
there's men in there. And I was like, so is that something to do with bringing that to college degree? I mean, I
Oh,
can't get away with that. 'Cause it's just
College is all about experimentation and finding yourself. Whatever happens there, it was just a college thing. It was a phase. Now I'm out of college. I'm not. I've learned who I am now. That's the whole thing. But once again, this is about the age of discovery and discovering who you are. But we'll go into that. We'll go into how the Greeks viewed these images and how the Greeks viewed this art. For the Greeks, this is just an example of who they are. But for us, I'm going into how this affected our brains. We're sitting back here not seeing anything like this ever. We go from 0 to 100. This is overshot to us. You got to look at this. This is porn for them. I'm going there because that has an effect on your psyche too.
I got to read this too.
Yes.
What Mike said. This is page 567 in Life of the Greeks. It says the gymnasium developed into a high school or college with classrooms, lecture halls, and a library.
Yeah.
So when you was in college, you were just in a gymnasium. That's why it didn't make a difference.
I said, nah, it's just something about that. I just couldn't do it. Even, and I used to know men that did it that was not gay. And I just said, I couldn't do it.
Well, you ain't nobody tell you joined the gymnasium. But that's what gymnasiums turned into, high school and college. And you got Sandusky's in there.
But once again, it was okay. He wasn't even Sandusky. That was okay.
Yeah.
There's no covering this. There's no hiding this. It's okay. It's a necessary exchange. It's a necessary exchange. Yes, you guys are young. We're going to teach you and educate you and rear you up academically and philosophically so you'll be prepared for the world. And this is part of your learning also.
And you get desensitized. Now imagine if you would have did that and how desensitized you would have been once you already have become accustomed to being naked in public.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's a weapon.
Then they'll say, well, we got this little beach party, nude beach party going on, because they do that too, especially in Europe.
Yep.
You know, they had nude beaches strictly for wrinkle folks. You know what I'm saying? So they could be free.
Yep.
What you know what I'm saying? But why have a nude beach? Why not have some shorts on? Why not have some flip flops? Why not have some shorts on? But our people want to. They think that's entertainment. They think that's fun. I want to go to the nude beach. I want to swim with them. But that's what they do. That's their culture. They've been doing this.
I want to experiment.
I want to experiment. I want to go swim like that. It ain't much difference from having some shorts on, man.
But once again, I'm going to go back into this statement about art. By the introduction of Grecian art, when we're reading about this introduction, now these doors are open, municipal buildings are in Jerusalem, shops are starting to open, stores are starting to open, everything's open now. Grecian art, a door was open to debauchery and riotous living. Now, people start performing what they see. Now, it was even easier to perform these wicked acts. Just like Shamshuan said about the commercials, or about the beer commercials. You see these commercials long enough, you start wanting to do it. Esau understood this with their art. You start buying this art, you start seeing this art, the more you see it, the more you want to do it. And this art and this propaganda, because it's a form of propaganda and advertising, fueled that wickedness and debauchery in our people. And we're sitting back and we always talk now about the time of Antiochus and how the Greek culture was forced on us. Was it forced on us? No. We wanted it. And so what the Most High did is he just forced it down our face. But we wanted it before Antiochus came in.
Yep.
That's the problem. That's the sad problem. We wanted this. We were sitting back here purchasing this art. Here's another horrible piece of art. Look at this one. It's a silver bowl. An older man holding a young boy in a very provocative position. It's like his leg is over his leg. It's horrible, man. This is what was pushed on our people.
He's basically in his.
I know. In his thigh, yes.
In his crotch, spreading his thighs.
Kinda.
With no clothes.
Kinda.
And he's admiring his thigh.
Yes.
His kneecap.
Yes.
No, it's worse than that.
I know it is.
You know,
But I'm just saying.
Don't say it.
I'm
But
just saying
yeah, I know.
we're trying to be PG over here, bro.
But we're trying to be PG, but it's important to show this. Because this is what we're asking for. When you sit back here in 2 Maccabees, and he is saying, when the king had granted, he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashion. Jason brought us to this. High priest Jason brought us to art, fashion, clothing, culture.
Gymnasiums.
Gymnasiums.
Give me some money so I can build a gymnasium. I will guarantee you.
Because I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money in the gymnasiums. And I'm going to be the one that helps lead the charge in the pushing of this direction. Listen, he obviously had been partaking in this already. He already was tapped in. I can show them how to do what
You have the network.
He already know how to do it. These guys were already in Egypt hanging out and partying and operating like a Greek.
He's the plug to the Greek side.
Con. And he said, I'm going to show them how y'all taught me. And what I saw in these houses. So this is already happening. Bro. Let me see. There's another one. There's another one of those pictures, huh?
These pictures are infamous.
This is everywhere.
This is crazy.
It's not like I'm showing you one picture.
Now, in high school, when they show us these pictures, they weren't showing
the whole. They probably wanted the face, right?
Intense boldness of it. They were just showing a couple guys naked.
Yeah.
They weren't showing.
They were like taunting and chatting.
Yeah, it wasn't the spirit.
These guys are going straight to the body organs. Huh?
Yes.
They said that's how they used to greet each other.
Kinda.
Yep.
That was a formal greeting between them.
You said that before.
Yeah.
You said it was Roman though. Actually, it's Greek.
That's Greek.
They expanded to Rome.
Yes. This is
Get
what's
the guy from
happening.
the Greeks.
Yeah, they got it from the Greeks. This is their hello.
How are you?
So you don't think Jakes are doing that?
You
They
don't
not
want,
seeing these
you
pictures?
don't want the Bible though.
They don't want the scriptures. They sat back and said, we don't want to live like the Bible. We want to do this. They started buying imagery. The imagery started being embedded in their brains. And they started acting out the imagery they saw in their art. Now we understand what the Most High was like. We don't do art like that. We don't do art. Now I need somebody else to read and go back into this point where it says, but then our legislator had forbidden us
Mike.
to make images. Yes.
Yeah, read. No,
Yeah.
The Greek perversion.
Mike.
Ban Yahana,
Show some.
Ban Yashala,
Show some top.
Sham Shabbat,
Ban Yavra.
Ban Yahla,
Man Yashel.
Ban Yasho.
Ban Yashala.
Show Shabbatah. I'm sorry. Ma'ay Yahana. Show Shabbatah. Ban Yahana. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it again. That was my fault. Ma'ay Yahana. Show Shabbatah. Ban Yahana. Ban Yasho. I'm not you. What? Yahana Hashem Yashabakita.
Yahweh Shema Thumb.
All right.
I'm nervous, sir. I'm spotlighting and
Let's just go.
In years.
And then let's go, man. Let's go. We good. Everything gonna be okay. So we're in the Josephus, and it says, "But then our legislator had forbidden us to make images."
Oh, here's a page of that.
It's page 798 and it's line 75.
75. Okay, we got. All right, I got it. But then our legislator had princes and lords.
No, have forbidden us.
Okay, it says.
But then
But then our legislator had forbidden us to make images, not by.
not
by way of dominication beforehand, that the Roman authority was not to be honored, but as despising, a thing that not to be honored.
that was neither necessary nor useful for either the Most High or man. Read on.
You might need a little line thing. So
Yeah.
so you're not jumping lines.
Here, Mike.
So it says, you want me to read it again at 75?
Yeah.
Okay. But then our legislator had princes of lords.
Mm-mm.
But then our legislator had forbidden us to make images, not by way of
Denunciation.
denunciation beforehand, forbidding us to make images.
Nuh-uh.
These lines are so small now.
Okay, listen. All right. Okay.
I can read the Bible.
You got it?
It's so
Okay. Let's go. Kareem.
These lines are small. I can see it.
Let's go there. Read it from the top, sir.
Come. But then our legislator hath forbidden us to make images, not by way of denunciation beforehand, that the Roman authority was not to be honored, but as despising a thing that was neither necessary nor useful for either God or man.
So what he's explaining is the use of art wasn't useful for the Most High, and it wasn't useful for us. It wasn't useful for us because people always bastardize any form of expression. It would have been only a period of time that the art would have went from trying to create images of the Most High to bastardizing it. So the Most High just outlawed art from us in general. Our homes were very simple. We didn't have a bunch of self-portraits. We didn't have any of that. This is what this paragraph explains. Because we would sit back and take any image and we would turn it into an idol. Whether it's a grandmama. I remember when a brother made the NFL draft, he had a big old picture of his grandma he carried out to the front line. Like, what are you doing, bro? Can you just sit back and value the experience your grandmother did for you? You got to have this big-ass picture of her out. He literally was holding the picture like this. And this guy was like a 6'4", 6'5" defensive lineman. Like, what are you doing? He idolized the image.
Yep.
This is how we do things. We idolize things that we're not supposed to idolize.
That's Wisdom of Solomon 14.
Con. So the Most High was like, you don't want us to deal with any of these imagery because we make too much of it. So it wasn't meant for us to tap into this. So we weren't supposed to make images, bust of people, clay nothing, or marble
tattoos on the body.
Any of it.
Art on the body.
We weren't dealing with art. And this is another reason why we were looked upon as being behind. We don't have art. Where's your art? Where's your form of self-expression? Our self-expression is us being servants of the Heavenly Father. That wasn't good enough. That's why we looked like we were so behind the times. So in order to catch up with the times, we started buying art. Gay porn art. And wondering why we started sitting back here and buying into this gymnasium culture. Because it went hand in hand. And we're going to go into a little bit about what that gymnasium culture and what the Greek culture really was about. Okay? Continue.
And he forbade them, as we shall prove hereafter, to make these images for any part of the animal creation, and much less for the Most High himself, who is no part of such animal creation. Yet hath our legislator nowhere forbidden us to pay honors to worthy men, provided they be of another kind, and inferior to those we pay to the Most High.
So, once again, the Most High was just explaining, we didn't sit back here and make pictures of a bunch of animals in our homes. Listen, do I sit back and have a family portrait at home? Yes. I'm not going to act like I don't have a family portrait at home. I don't have any pictures. I'm just explaining that that wasn't what was allowed back in those days. It wasn't accepted because of the extremes the Most High knew we had inside of us. I'm only going here to let you know culturally we had no images. We went from no images to pornographic images. You don't think that had an effect on our psyche? That's what I'm trying to explain.
And you're saying that you accept this without saying you accept this.
Con. And every day you wake up, what are you looking at? You're looking at this. Every day you wake up, you're looking at this.
Yeah, you got that on your silverware, your plates, your bowls on the kitchen table.
It's on the kitchen table. It's right in front of you. You see this every day.
And you know who's more keen than anybody? Children. Children notice everything. They know, and because they're curious, they got curious minds.
Yep.
So they say, what are they doing on that plate?
Daddy.
What they doing on that bowl? What are they doing with each other? Why is he holding his private?
You don't think the kids are going to practice on themselves?
Yeah. You leave kids alone too long,
they gonna be doing this.
Well,
that's the problem. That is another aspect of the problem.
And the Most High did say what we're supposed to have on our walls. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
Read verse 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6.
Deuteronomy 6 and 6.
Mm-hmm. Read through 9.
6 and 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 6. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house.
So it said the focus when you're at home should be the scriptures. That should be the focus. Read on.
And when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and thou shalt bind them.
He said when you're walking by the way, when you rise up in the morning, when you lay down, scripture should be the focus. Read on.
Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand.
And your kids should see this in your hands. Read on.
And they shall be as frontlets.
Frontlets.
between thine eyes,
Go ahead.
and thou shalt write them upon the posts of the house.
It said, what's on the doorpost?
Write them upon the posts of the house.
So what's supposed to be on the posts of your house?
Scripture.
Scriptures.
Yeah.
It didn't say have. It didn't say have.
I'm just gonna put the image right here.
Because
What they doing it there?
That's not supposed to be on the post of your
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Hey man, come to my crib. I got that new picture. Oh, you got some new picture? What you got?
Let's talk
Oh
about
my
the art,
God.
man.
I got $1,000 piece.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
$1,000.
I paid $1,000 for this one.
It is authentic.
Yeah.
See
This
that?
was there in a This ain't a replica.
Just
This ain't a replica. I got it from Egypt.
It's Basquiat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what he was about?
I know. Him and his lover.
Basquiat. The Basquiat show.
Yeah.
No.
But he said it's supposed to be where?
It says, upon thy posts of thy house and on thy gates.
So on the gates, on the doorposts, what's supposed to be there?
The scriptures, the
Scriptures,
law.
bro.
The Lord.
Because what it lets you know is whatever you post up was what's supposed to be on your mind every day.
Yeah.
So either I'm gonna be looking at these scriptures and this law, I'm gonna push this button again. Or you're looking at that every damn day long.
That's on your mind.
That's on your mind. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You keep looking at it.
Or you might have Dennis Rodman on your wall, but he's about that life too.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
He was an honorary.
Listen,
Greek
you know they had dark skin images like this. Because the Greeks had dark skin and light skin images in their Greek world. That's a fact too.
That's true.
So let me get some black art. Okay, you get some black art looking like this.
It'd be no
That
different.
don't make it better. I buy black. Okay. Basquiat was gay too. How about that?
Yeah.
Black Greeks.
Anyway, Con, you good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you done with that verse?
Yeah, he's doing.
Okay, let that go.
Okay.
Now we're going to sit back here and go to the history of Israel again. And it says, this is on page 208. This is the second paragraph. The new entity, meaning of Israel, named Antiochia in Judea, included such wholly, meaning totally, un-Jewish features as a gymnasium. We said earlier, gymnasium comes from the Greek word gymnos, which means naked or nude. It's just a place where you can be nude and naked at and be accepted. That's what the gymnasium was. And you can get in the gym, you can lift weights in the nude. That's literally what the purpose of the gym was.
You can
It
wrestle too.
was a place to get away from the woman and hang out with the men. In the Greek culture, the women were supposed to be seen and not heard. This is even in the Greek culture. And the men were supposed to do what the men did. Act the what? You know, it's not the Navy. It's not the Navy. It's the gym. I know. I'm just saying. Them songs in the Navy. No, it was in the gym. That's where it was getting down. But we're going to explain it. So it says, included such holy and Jewish features as a gymnasium, complete with a corpse of young men, euphebes or ephebes, who were uncircumcised and performed athletics in the nude. So we weren't just lifting in the nude. You were sitting back here running at 40, running the sprints in the nude. You were sitting back here throwing javelins in the nude.
discus.
To be specific, the Olympic games or the athletic scenarios were running. So whatever distance you was running in the nude. That's very uncomfortable. Long jump. Can you imagine jumping in the damn sand in the nude? Shot put. You're just spinning a bunch of ways and throw. Bail everything out.
His release.
Javelin. Bucket naked. What's going on here, right? Boxing. Listen, if you get hit below the belt, you're out of there, right? You're out of there, right?
Punished.
It's direct. It's a direct hit. Boxing, and then it's an old mixed martial arts wrestling called pankration. So you sitting back here wrestling body on body, sliding and gliding out,
Yeah.
naked, and they had images of that also, wrestling in the nude. Cats were buying that. Then it was equestrian events. So you want horses naked, doing equestrian art. this is what was being practiced at the gymnasium. Okay? So, let's continue where it says, no, I don't want to go there. I want to go into these ephebes, or these ephebos. And go on, there were these ephebos, was a corpse, meaning a group of young men that were pulled out and specifically focused on in these gymnasiums. These ephebos, it says, is a term for a male adolescent in ancient Greece. So it's specifically a young man in his early to mid-teens. Like you would be. You would be in ephebos. Okay? So they would sit back here, and the term was particularly used to denote one who was doing military training and preparing to become an adult. And it says they underwent 2 years of military training, and after that 2 years of military training, they would have a career and a job after that. Okay? But in the midst of this military training, it said by the first century, the ephebia became an institution reserved for wealthy individuals. And besides military training, it also included philosophic and literary studies. And that's what you said. You said it ended up changing into these gymnasiums ended up turning into like universities and schools. So what ended up happening is you're in the gym, you're working out, you're preparing for your athletic games, but you're also being developed militarily, philosophically, academically. You're learning certain books that you have to read and get strong at, and this kind of well rounds your academic experience. Okay, now what's that? What you got?
I want to read something.
Okay, go.
This is because in Athens and Sparta, it's different.
I went there early. I messed up.
Different parts of Greek cultures, they all believe the same thing. But some places was worse. If you was in Sparta, this is what life was like in Sparta. It says, as to love, the young man was permitted to indulge in it without prejudice of gender. So they promoted whatever gender you want to fall in love with, you can fall in love with whatever gender you want it. It says, nearly every lad, talking about these young men, that's 12 years old, nearly every lad had a lover among the older men.
Wow.
From this lover, he expected further education, and in return, he offered affection and obedience. It says, often this exchange grew into a passionate friendship that stimulated both youth and man to bravery in war. And this is where you have those 300 soldiers from.
Yep.
The famous 300 were a group of 150 couples.
Now, what they said the Spartans were different than the Athenians and different of the cultures because they only allowed that pedestry to be amongst their battalions. They said they allowed it in their battalions to promote love and affection for the unit. They said the other ones were really gay. We just do it to keep the camaraderie in the soldiership. But these other things, we're not really like that. We just do this for the unity of the body.
This is a part of work.
Yeah,
it's a part of keeping us maintaining the courage amongst the units. But everybody else, these Athenians, these guys are really into that action.
Yeah,
they're really soft. It's just in these people's minds. We're going to read it in a little bit how disconnected they really were about this whole subject. And this is what our people were dying to be a part of. You didn't want that?
Yeah. It says, well, no, that's it right there because we're going to go into one more thing. And we ain't going to go into that.
Yeah. And then going into the gymnasium culture, you can look this up literally in Google. Nobody's hiding this. This is not some hidden thing. In ancient Greece, while the gymnasium was a space for physical exercise and social interaction, it was a boys' club. You work out and you hang out with the guys, okay? Young guys, old guys. It said it was a space for physical exercise and social interaction, same-sex relationships, particularly pedestry, between an older man and a younger boy were common. This was common flex at the gymnasium. So yeah, you're working out to try to go ahead and get in the Olympics. But how many people are going to qualify for the Olympics? Very few. But the gyms were still packed. Okay? Now let's read 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 12 real quick.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 12 read, "For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself."
Listen. Jason gladly built a gym. He said, fine, I would love to build a gym. Because it would sit back here and fuel the pool of young men, these Phoebes that are getting developed. You bring the gym, then you got to bring the young people in there to populate it, to get them to come around, to work their bodies out. Read on.
"And brought the chief young men under his subjection."
Mm-hmm. He said, and brought the chief, then it says he brought the chief young men under his subjection. What do you think he's doing?
I gotta say this.
Listen, Jason is putting the best and the brightest, and he's going to tutor them.
Oh yeah, because he's.
So what do you think he's doing?
He's passing down. He's doing the same actions, but also he's passing down his. I guess these are his assistants. Or these are his.
Well, these young men are going to be up under him. But what is that? The pupil-teacher relationship is what the pedigree is about.
It's
Older man and younger boy.
called Day 26.
Wow.
Bro, this he says, I want these guys up under me.
Wow.
Now, I want my choice with these young ones. He's telling you what it is. And I'm going to teach you military training. I'm going to develop you in all these approaches to get you ready for the real world.
What's that club that Diddy brought Usher to? He called
Club Flavor Camp.
it Flavor Camp. He said, yeah, he brought Usher to what's called Flavor Camp. But Usher was
15.
Was he 15?
He's 15.
Usher was destroyed at that Flavor Camp.
Brother, and I got to explain this before you go further, because that process that you're explaining with Diddy and Usher is very similar to the process that these young men that Jason said, I'm going to bring them under my tutelage. That's what he said. I'm going to make these guys, they're going to be up under me. We're going to explain this dynamic. It said pedestry in ancient Greece. Pedestry in ancient Greece was a socially acknowledged relationship between an older man, Eurystheus, and a younger male, Eramenos, usually in his teens. The teens is between 14 years old to like 18. They were picking 14-year-old boys up. Some scholars locate its origin in an initiation ritual, particularly rites of passage on Crete, meaning they looked at this process as your rite of passage. This is what you have to go through to get to the high echelon. The reason I'm explaining it this way is, what do you think is happening now? In the music industry, in the entertainment industry, what do you think is happening with all those children that were like on Disney? Doing those shows, whether it was your Justin Timberlakes, your Britney Spears, all those kids on the Disney Channel that sit back here and they put them on a regular stage. They show praise. I mean, they show talent and ability. You got to go through your initiation ritual also.
And what's the little boy that was on Everybody Loves Raven? Or?
Oh yeah, that dude.
He's a famous guy
husky
right now.
guy. Yeah.
No, is it
Jake Cat.
No, what's his name? Light skinned dude.
He's crazy.
He was gargling the microphone.
Yeah, he's a fool.
Yeah, but he kind of like he took it and went left with it.
He was a Major Payne. He was the kid in Major Payne.
Yeah, the kid of Major Payne. Yeah, what's his name?
Let's look it up.
Because he talks about, he exposes that Hollywood.
Yeah.
That Hollywood lifestyle.
Macaulay Culkin's all worn out at, and even those other guys. It was not Macaulay Culkin, but it's another guy that was he was in Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Point is, these guys that they went through it, they got abused, but they didn't handle it right. Some guys kind of like handled it the wrong way, and other people.
Orlando Brown is the name.
That's the guy. Brown. Yes. Yeah. Orlando Brown. These other guys, they sit back, get abused, and they don't respond to it right. And others can handle it and still go without their. Look at Justin Bieber, bro. He was the same way. He's all messed up in his head right now.
But Usher brought him in the game.
Done.
Like Diddy took Usher under his wing, and Usher took Bieber under his wing.
Well, Diddy took him under his wing too.
Yeah, he did.
He said, "Listen, I got full custody for a whole weekend. We're gonna do it big, right?" Like, yeah, we're gonna do it big. This kid was like 14 years old.
In exchange for the secrets of the industry.
So you got in. You got all the producers, all the beat makers, all the hits you want, but you gotta go. It was the Coreys, yes. That's who it was. Corey Feldman and those guys. Yes, that's exactly who it is. These guys were these young guys that were being developed in the industry, and they glitched and they couldn't handle it, and they started talking about the industry. But this is an initiation ritual that the Greeks used to initiate the young people that they chose to get brought up into high society. And this is what Jason says he wants to do for the young youths of Israel. We're going to initiate them, and we're going to run through them, have our fun with them, and develop them and get them ready for high office and governmental positions. It lets you know this is what it takes even in society today.
Industry plants.
Oh, well, listen, if you want to make records, you want to be famous, this is the ritual you got to go through.
We'll plant you in. We'll give you a viral hit.
Yeah.
We'll say you just came out and know you're so talented. You're a great person. We have documentaries to make for you and show you.
We got publishing.
We'll insert you in the high schools. Insert your. We'll be your distribution. We'll put you on the media shows to talk.
You don't got to work your way from the top.
Yeah.
We're just gonna put you at the top initially.
Because you're already past all the initiation.
Yes, you initiated. You went through all the rituals needed. Now you're getting into that. Yeah.
It's sad because when you do look at a lot of those Disney and stuff, you can tell like every male kid is not a masculine kid. How I know? Because my dad raised me as a youngster to be masculine, so I already could see that a lot of the male kids in Hollywood are not masculine.
Well, we're going to read about that in a little bit about how the Greeks looked at young boys. We're going to go on all that in a little bit, but we're just explaining that once again. Some scholars locate its origin. What was the origin of this pedastry? Yes, the young people got to get developed, and we're going to teach them and educate them because education wasn't free. So this was the education and the literary knowledge that automatically took you to the top of society. That's what they're saying. We're going to educate you. We're going to develop you. We're going to make you well-rounded. You're going to know literature. You're going to know philosophy. We're going to sit back and teach you military training. You're automatically to the top from everybody. Most people are just sharecroppers and farmers. So to get that, you were at the top. But to get that, you had to go through your initiation ritual. Some scholars locate its origin in initiation ritual, particularly rites of passage, where it is associated with entry into military life and the religion of Zeus. So in order to even sit back here, we're going to read later, in order to sit back here and be a part of the Olympics, you have to embrace the religion of Zeus. In order to sit back here and be groomed by these leaders, you have to embrace the religion of Zeus. You got to get military development, and you got to get your spirit broken in this initiation ritual. And you got to be in a significant, we're going to read, you got to be in a significant relationship with an adult male for 5 to 7 years. That's the catch. These young boys that catch you at 14, you got to be with that man till you're 20.
Till you grow out your boy face.
But we're going to read it. We're going to go into the more detail. But really what they say is from 14 to 20, you're with that adult male. And then now you become an adult. And you got to choose you a 14-year-old to deal with. And then you deal with him until you're in your late 20s. Then you can get married to a woman.
This is the Greek culture.
That's literally the Greek way. Greek men were encouraged not to marry a woman until they get to their 30s. So that means you got 15 years of foulness in your soul. Then you're going to switch up and like women all of a sudden? Does that even make sense?
No, there was
It doesn't even make sense. Because you know that's not even a real thing. That's just, you just picked her so you don't look bad because you're really still about that action. 15 years haven't procreated, but 15 years of that lifestyle. And this is what the Jew, Jason, was choosing to develop young men by. When he said in verse 12, "For he built gladly a place of exercise. You know what he wanted. He's like, hell, I'll do it. Listen, I will give you 150 talents to open this exercise gymnasium. And I will choose the best young men for the job.
It's like Birdman saying, let's get these boys on stage.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, huh? That's exactly what it is. So he gets to choose which boys he gets to mentor. It lets you know what kind of man Jason was. And how he was about that action before he met Antiochus. He didn't all of a sudden become this guy. He was that guy anyway.
There was no limits with him.
He was no limits. So once again, I'm going to go back to the top. Some scholars locate its origin in an initiation ritual, particularly rites of passage, where it is associated with entrance into military life and the religion of Zeus. If you're going to enter into this elite status, you got to go this path. Then it says, Greek homosexual culture was characterized also by athletic and artistic nudity. They wanted, the whole purpose, nudity was art to them. And now we know it was homosexual art. Art that we were purchasing and consuming and becoming infatuated with ourselves. So our young men were being introduced to this way of life. And the older men were curious about that life too. So now you know why the Most said, I got to destroy this temple. They don't want it. Why would he keep the temple there? Why wouldn't he turn this thing upside down? This is what was going down in Jerusalem. Does it make sense now? Jews for years will just paint a one-sided picture of Antiochus Epiphanes and how he came down here and he forced the Greek way on us. No, he forced it after we craved it, after we asked for a government to come down and teach us the laws, after we asked for citizenship and art and changing our names and pushing pedestry on our children. Then all of a sudden, we're tripping about why the Most High has these soldiers coming here about to destroy us and burn this temple down? Come on, man. We're ridiculous.
And you wonder what's wrong with Willow and Jaden Smith.
Look, their whole spirit is messed up. You don't think they were part of all this crap? It's part of the initiation ritual that has been maintained since the Greek time. This isn't something new.
They made Jaden Smith the head model for the women's line of Louis Vuitton.
That's crazy. I didn't even know
Jaden
that.
Smith, the son.
The guy.
Yeah, he was at one time he was the head model for the new fashion line of the women's line.
Yep. And that was years ago. Now you have, what's that basketball player now from Florida?
Mm-hmm.
That Florida, Dwayne Wade.
Yeah. You mean Miami? Yeah.
Yeah, his son tapping into those zones too.
Yeah.
Or Balenciaga,
Yep.
Teddy Bears and Chains.
Yep.
Listen, I saw one of the worst clips ever. Right? Dwayne Wade was trying to teach his daughter, the boy that was changed to a daughter, how to twerk. Whoa! And he did it using a basketball. I literally saw that. I was like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Because he's been known in those dark circles as being about that zone too. He's about that. When I saw the clip, he was showing the son that changed into a girl, which can't happen. But he showed him how to twerk. And he was sitting back here, used the basketball. This visual, he used the basketball to show him that. And he is esteemed and respected for being a good man and being a hit father and upstanding guy. This is the kind of guy he is. But I'm going to go back and finish this off. It says Greek homosexual culture, which was characterized also by athletic and artistic nudity. So the whole purpose of the gyms was to get a bunch of men in here to sit back here and get these older men off. The ones who were really athletic, take them to the games. The one who wasn't, but there was an attraction there, I'm going to sit back here and have my way with them. Then it said, delayed marriage for aristocrats. The elites were pushed and taught not to have marriage young, because you had to be part of this cycle of grooming young children. They would say, listen, you're too young to be married. Keep having these affairs with these young boys. That's what you're supposed to be doing in your 20s. This is the Greek way.
And you wonder why, what's his name? Dave Chappelle said on Oprah, I don't understand why they keep trying to put black men in a dress.
I know why. Shit. Because listen, you wear a dress, the next thing is you're going to be doing acts of people wearing those dresses. Then it went into, then it said symposia, which is having group meetings with men was being pushed. Delayed marriage, having a bunch of group meetings with men, and the social seclusion of women. Women were supposed to just sit back here and let the men do their wickedness. Be at the house, cook and clean, so we can deal with these boys. And I'll come home and give you a kiss after when I get home. This is literally how society was framed in the Greek culture. When we were asking and begging, close the door, the powers that be to assimilate us to. Okay? Now, I want to go real quick.
Supposedly in Latin is sun potes, together drinker.
Yeah,
fellow drinker.
You were coming together and partying. Yeah. This is what was pushed. Men, older and younger, coming together and doing this. What you see on this image is they're drinking and partying on beds. You ever see those beds that kind of like, or the sofas that, not sofas, but yeah, they kind of like lay out like this and they stretch out?
Yeah, Chase Lounge.
Yeah, Chase Lounge. That's what they had, a bunch of Chase Lounge with men picking a boy and they drinking and partying together. This is what the symposium was about.
This is the highest social order.
This is the highest social order of the land.
Western society.
That the whole world was being influenced to do. This is what it was. Look at the image. It was the party, huh? This was where the party was at.
This is what it's about.
This is what it was about in the Greek culture. Huh?
Not the American way, but the Greek way.
Yeah. But the Greek way is the American way. I know. How about that? That's what it's really about.
Because in America, that culture survived.
Good. Because the powers that be live by that culture. So then, with that being the case, we're going to read a little more. I'm going to read a little bit more. Because it said, this is the funny one. This is a manuscript or some writing about the Greeks. It says, just how gay were the ancient Greeks, really? How gay were they? But it went into this, the ancient Greeks have a long-standing reputation in modern culture for their alleged tolerance of homosexuality. A reputation that has been so thoroughly ingrained with a common euphemism for the word homosexuality itself is called Greek love. But Greek love only means there's no homosexual word in Greek. It's just love. It's agape. People sit back here and people say in Christianity, agape love is pure love in Christ. And the Most High, no. The Greek word for agape is the lover of men. Because they don't have a definition for homosexuality or lesbianism. That's not a real word in their culture. They just say, man, love is love. Like they say now. Love is love. It's agape love. It's a pure love. And that pure love that older man has for that boy cannot be broken. That's where agape came from. When you sit back here and read all of what all the Old Testament, the Greek word for love is agape. But the origin of that love had nothing to do with Christianity and Christ. That origin of love was the lover of boys.
That's not filial love.
No, it's just like the whole concept of Philadelphus. Philadelphus, in terms now, was brotherly love. But Philadelphus originally was a lover of your sister. That's what Ptolemy Philadelphus was. Philadelphus is the love of your sister. And it got twisted into the love of brotherly love. But it was really Ptolemy Philadelphus loved his sister and married her. That's what Philadelphus was. And that's the truth. You go all around in circles. But agape love was not what that Christianity we thought about. So if you were in agape, know what agape meant for real. It was loving them little boys. That's what agape love, because love just was love. So
That's their culture.
that's their culture. That's the root of their love.
Culture. That's not Israelite culture.
Mm-hmm. So it says the common euphemism for the word homosexuality itself is just agape. That's what it was known for. That's what messed me up. Their idea of love is love between a man and a little boy. It wasn't even about a woman. She wasn't even part of the equation. And there's a lot of information in this writing, but I'm going to go and try to hit the points of impact. And it's important that we're going here, because when you're reading these verses in 2 Maccabees, you can rush through them, but you can't see the impact of when he says in verse 12, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. We're going to the hat point in a second. The hat's a reward for getting dealt with. You get a shiny hat out. I'm going to show you the hat real quick. After going through all this crap, your reward is that. You get to wear a hat out that represents the god Hermes. You get to wear one of those mountie hats that what's his name? Pharrell wears out.
Yeah.
That's the reward for being exploited and taken advantage of.
Yeah.
But we're going to that in a
He
second.
puts on those stupid.
Yeah, those stupid hats that he wears.
He wears stupid hats.
That's what
That's
the
a
Greeks
hat.
wore. They're stupid hats.
Stupid
That looked like a Wizard of Oz hat.
It's a dumb hat with some eagle wings on it.
Yeah.
It's stupid. But this is the reward you got
That's high fashion, though.
for being exploited and used,
Being compromised.
for being compromised, and never being the same. So, it said when the Greeks thought about the roles assumed by two partners during sex, they didn't think of it as a male partner and a female partner, but rather as an active, a top partner, and a passive receiving partner. That's how they looked at it. Their active role, they believed, was the natural role of an adult male, but the passive role could be assumed by anyone who was not properly an adult male. That's how they justified their wickedness. They justified it. If you weren't 20, then it's okay. But that was what the so-called Amaleks were doing with their policies from the not the Torah, but the
Tanakh.
no, it's not the Tanakh.
The Talmud.
The Talmud. You can sit back here and deal with a child as long as this child is younger than 9. That's what they're pushing in the Talmud.
That's Talmud.
As long as they're not 9, you can do what you want with that child.
That's crazy.
It's the same wickedness
Lawful.
in the same Edomite people. It's the same thing. So they're sitting back here and saying this little boy is not a male. That's what they're saying. That's what justifies wickedness. And this is what Jason is saying. These little boys ain't men yet, so I can have my way with them. This is the Greek way that Jews wanted to be like. It said, this of course included women, but also male adolescents, young teenage men, who were likewise seen as deficient in masculinity. So if you're deficient in masculinity, then I can have my way with you. If your male features haven't come all the way through, then I can have my way with you. This is the thinking behind the Greek way, and this is what our people were pushing amongst our community at. It said it was believed that by receiving the active part, this is wicked. Think about this. It was believed that by receiving the active partner, the passive partner, whether it was a woman or a boy, would become more masculine and thereby progress towards the ultimate goal of manhood. That's ridiculous. So they're saying that if you take advantage of this young boy, that act will make him more masculine.
Actually, it's not true.
It's completely untrue. That act is not going to make you more masculine. It's going to make you more feminine.
Yep.
But that was the lie that was taught in Greek circles to justify debauchery. Yes.
I would say too, probably the vocal cords too, because I went to school and most men vocal cords changed to almost masculine tone. And this one guy, he had a girl voice, and I'll just put it like this: he had problems. I said, and he wound up being a famous killer today on death row. Warren Davis of New Orleans. That his vocal cords didn't change, and they used to just doing bad in high school out, and it just goes out with you say the vocal cords and the actual features.
Yeah. And if they see those features, young features, they're gonna keep taking advantage of it. And then they say, if I do this to you, you'll become a man faster. This is the lie, and this is what Jason was implying on all the priests and all the people in the elite social circles with the young boys in our nation. So you think the Most High wasn't pissed that the young people were being affected this way? Most High, I gotta destroy these dudes. This is what the leadership of the nation is pushing on our young people. The young folks don't have a chance then. I gotta put it in the spirit of Antiochus to destroy this place. God did that. Because it had to be blown up and destroyed from the inside. But this was coming from the priesthood. This is what the Most High said, I gotta change this priesthood and do away with it. Because this is what the priesthood is bringing to the table. This is why he had to break up the priesthood. So it says whether it was a woman or a boy. Why would you want a woman to... Why would you think that the process that happened to a woman will make her more masculine? That don't make sense either. It's a backwards way of thinking. This is why Deuteronomy, I'm not going there. Deuteronomy says that their vine is of the vine of Sodom. Their whole way of thinking is of the spirit of Sodom. Then it says, and thereby it would become more masculine, and thereby progress towards the ultimate goal of manhood. Then it says, it was not only accepted as natural, but even to some degree expected that a young man in his 20s should seek out an adolescent boy in his mid to late teenage years to be his lover. So what he's telling you is, after 6 years of abuse, it's your time to be the abuser. They're saying it was expected that young boy that was in his 20s, that was used as the bottom for all those years, has to change his focus and become a predator and get a 14-year-old kid.
And pass on the culture.
And pass on the culture.
This is why Usher gave Bieber to Diddy.
Yep.
Same flavor count.
And what's his name? The producer that produced Billie Jean. What's his name? Quincy Jones.
The worst.
Yeah, he was.
He took the position of the older man too.
But he remember he was the first one that produced Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I know he was.
For Will Smith.
He the one chose Will.
Yeah.
And Tevin, not Tevin.
Well, and he worked with LL
in the house.
Yeah.
And Michael didn't start getting real soft until working with Quincy.
Brother. Listen, I always saying this is the process. And they said in your 20s, the men of Greece were pushed. Listen, man, you're 20. Now it's time for you to sit back here and take a young boy for yourself. 6-7 years of your life go to him. Can you imagine? 14 years, 15 years of your life is in that spirit. And now it's like, now you're supposed to go ahead and marry. Now it's time to find your woman and marry. You think your heart's giving it that at that time?
That's the Greek interpretation of a normal nuclear family.
Because what he's saying is the height of a man's sexual virility should be dealing with another man. And as you're going on your descent in your 30s, now you'll get a woman.
And that's in Greek. That's in Arab culture too. They have that premise. They have that premise that men are for pleasure. Women are for babies. Men are for pleasure.
This is the nation's way of looking at things. It's horrible. So it says it was not only accepted as natural, but even some degree expected that a young man in his 20s should seek out an adolescent boy in his mid to late teenage years to be his lover. The man was supposed to court the boy just as he would court a woman.
Sad.
So you had to sit back and buy this little nigga flowers out, buy him chocolates, sit back here and stand out. I'm going to keep reading that.
You're loosening them up a little bit.
Listen, but it says the man in his 20s during the courting was known as Orestes, meaning lover. And the boy in his teens who was being courted was known as Eromenos, being beloved. Then it says adolescent boys were expected to choose a lover, but they were also conditioned to put up as much resistance as possible. It was regarded as shameful if a boy accepted one of the suitors without Orestes putting up a huge effort. Often, multiple men would compete for the affections of the young boy, bringing him expensive gifts,
like the chase,
and even sometimes sleeping outside of his window, doing anything they possibly could to win his favor.
Yep.
This is really how it went down in Greece. This is the worst damn story you can actually get at.
It's the height of Western civilization.
This is the height of culture. Then it says, after that young boy reaches after that man, the one who pursues the boys, reach his late 20s, he was expected to move on, stop being interested in boys, and marry a woman and start a family. In ancient Greece and in most other cultures, a man was usually expected to marry when he was in his late 20s or early 30s. You really think after living that life you're going to switch up and sit back and really be about women? You're going to marry, a woman's going to be at the house, and you're going to be at the club find another young boy out. Forever, right? That's what's inside of you. You telling me your mind and your sexuality isn't already established by the time you're 30? Get out of here, right?
I want to read this too. It says, merchants import handsome lads to be sold to the highest bidder, who will use them first as concubines and later as slaves. And only a negligible minority of males think it amiss that the effeminate young aristocrats of the city should arouse and assuage the ardor of aging men. So they're saying that that nobody thinks it's wrong.
Yeah.
It says nobody thinks it's wrong that a young effeminate male stimulates an older male. He says the majority of the people don't think there's nothing wrong with that. That's what he just read.
This is why I am happy to open up a place of exercise in Jerusalem. I would do it. I would take on that sacrifice. And I would develop these men personally myself.
It says Athenian law disfranchises those who receive homosexual attentions, but public opinion tolerates the practice humorously. So they saying that it's against the law,
but it's wink.
But it's winked at.
It's like, okay, he's supposed to be at the home with his wife.
Right.
Yeah, right. That's where you're gonna be at.
Yeah.
Come on now.
It says in Sparta and Crete, no stigma of any kind is attached to it.
So you know what he's saying? What Chumsha One is saying is that they might not officially do the grooming anymore, but they're still getting what they want.
Yeah.
They're not doing the official grooming of the Greek citizen, the Greek young man, but they're still getting that young boys because they still got young boys coming off the boat.
And nobody's going to do anything about it.
And nobody's going to do anything about it. What you do on your free time, you just might not be able to support another young lad of the Greek citizens around like you did in your 20s. Now you got to go to the brothels to do it. Now you got to buy a servant to do it. That's what ended up happening.
Yep.
I didn't know that. I didn't know the Greeks sold themselves. Sold that did the same thing within their nation.
Yes. It was like we read in that thing about the pederasty in ancient Greece. It was a rite of passage for young boys. That was what you had to go through as a young boy to earn your stripes as a man. And then the rich and elite had their choice of the young men that they wanted to work.
No, I didn't know that they sold.
Well, he's saying that these are slaves that came off the boat from different countries.
Oh.
Slavery was still going on rampant. So they would get boys from Egypt or boys from different countries, and they would prey on them once they got to their 30s and up. They still had those inclinations. What you going to say, Dawid? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that this is the organized form of Greek society. We talked about earlier in previous classes about they were warring tribes. In that region, there were warring tribes, small tribes. So this is tribally on their level too. This is their indigenous ideal, their indigenous culture. Everybody has indigenous culture.
Yep.
They said that they never had indigenous culture. If you let them tell it, they were never indigenous. But when you look into them in their primitive form, them and the Greeks in their primitive form were just small little tribes in warring states. But this was the culture of those small little tribes also. So the point that's being established or being said is this is always within their propensities and their proclivities in a cultural level. They're just making it a governmental structured societal norm. But if it wasn't a governmental structured societal norm, it would still be a tribalistic theme, a familial theme, a cultural theme. They can make it look good because they have the upper hand militarily and financially. But when they were in poverty, when they had nothing, this is still going on a low level
And
too.
militarily, it says in Thebes, it is accepted as a valuable source of military organization and bravery. So they promoted homosexuality and that relationship between young men and older men as a sign of bravery when you commit yourself to an attachment to that type of relationship.
Wow.
And fight for that other individual. The young man fights for the older lover. The older lover fights for the young man. They consider that as a brave thing.
You're so brave.
You're a brave heart.
Yeah.
And it says the attachment of a man to a boy or of a boy to a boy shows in Greece all the symptoms of romantic love, passion, piety, ecstasy, jealousy, serenading, brooding,
This is wicked.
moaning,
God.
and sleeplessness.
I mean, they can't go to
I
sleep.
can't go to
They miss
sleep. It's
Really what it
H
is,
fever out.
they're just burning in their lust.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
somebody that's so intensely burning in their lust they can't sleep.
It's a demon.
But they quantify that burning lust that the Bible calls lust, lasciviousness.
Yep.
What the Bible calls lasciviousness, the Greeks called it love.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
agape. Pure love. The purest form of love there is.
Yeah.
Bro. And you see how they spin the vernacular to justify their evil? And once again, we're going into, listen, this is what they're supposed to do. The problem is we're reading about the fact that we want to do it. And we're passing these laws. And we're sitting back here and allowing these municipal authorities to teach that this is okay. That's the problem. These new laws are saying you can do all of this and this is allowed and accepted now. So when that door opens, whatever lust is inside you is going to come out and the debauchery is going to flood the city. Man. So anyway, now we're going to go to Life of Greece, page 52, the first paragraph. And it said, a gymnasium was opened in Jerusalem, and Jewish youths, even priests, took part naked in athletic games. Some young Jews in the order of Hellenism. No, I'm going to go there. I'll go there in a little bit. So, this is what's happening. They're new in these gyms, and some of them are just working out to get in shape and to be courted by the elite of the society. Some are sitting back here and working out.
They're educated.
And being courted and being educated, educated of the ways of the Greek way.
Yeah.
Some have the talent to be.
They got an internship
Yes.
waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly. They got an internship, or you can make it all the way to the league. When you make it to the league, you still got to be backed by somebody.
Yeah.
You still got to choose that partner. So whether you're going to go and work out and be a champion, or you're going to sit back here and work out and just be somebody's boy toy, you're going to be a boy toy regardless.
Yep.
So then what happened is they were getting prep for these Olympic Games. And just a breakdown on the Olympic Games. It said the ancient Olympic Games were primarily a part of a religious festival that was in honor of Zeus, the father of the Greek gods and goddesses. So once again, when it says we were sitting back here preparing for the Olympics, we were preparing for a religious ceremony honoring Zeus. That's what the Olympics was about from the very beginning.
Every 4 years.
So we're sitting back here tripping on the fact that Zeus was put in the temple, well, we wanted Zeus. We were working out to honor Zeus in the first place.
When we bring in the Olympics, we're bringing in Zeus.
That's the point. We were sitting back here training to go to the Olympics to honor Zeus in the first place. But we're tripping that Antiochus put Zeus in the temple. That's what we were doing anyway. That's what the motivation was for in the gym, to get to the Olympics to honor Zeus. Then it said the Greeks that came to the sanctuary of Zeus in the Olympics shared the same religious beliefs and spoke the same language. So obviously these guys in the gym had to learn Greek, and they had to be down with the Greek pantheon of gods and had to be ready to honor Zeus if they were going to go up here to this gym. So you don't think that was part of the education? You're in the gym, you're working out, you show your physical talent, you have to learn how to honor Zeus, you have to learn the dress code, the operation, the whole culture to even represent Jerusalem in the Olympics the right way.
Today they call country clubs.
Donna.
Same thing. You know, but it's just an elite, isolated gymnasium. A country club is no different. Whether it be on a golf course or tennis course, you still got these old wealthy men with young servants serving them wine and drinks at the country club.
Right.
That's members only. But that's what we want to do. We want to wear the members only jacket. We want to be part of the club.
Yeah. And this is the issue. So then it says, obviously the Olympic Games were fully nude, and it was running, long jump, shot put, javelin, boxing, mixed martial arts, wrestling, equestrian events, and it says the prize for the victors was an olive wreath. You went through all that shit to get an olive wreath, a Greek olive wreath. When you already had the best olives in the world in Jerusalem, you get a lame Greek olive leaf, a wreath on your head, and that was the prize for winning the Olympics.
You get notoriety. But
really, what it is, you was notoriety, and you had a job amongst the elites after you won, because that's what the next manuscript explains. It is from Livius.org. It says, from then on, Jewish boys, at least those who could afford to go to the gymnasium. So then they made the gymnasium a social thing, and it was an elite thing. So if you weren't elite, you couldn't be a part of the gymnasium. It's just like our people now. If you're a hood dude, you can't get in these Hollywood parties. So if you're a hood dude, you tell yourself, man, I really want to get to those Hollywood parties. But what you realize is when you get to those Hollywood parties, what do you got to do? We didn't even realize that at this level. We see the gym saying, man, we want to be a part of that gym. They're on another level. I'm envious of these guys, these young guys in the gym.
Yep.
Not realizing what these young men had to go through in those gyms.
First, they're going to sign a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement.
What happens in gymnasium stays in gymnasium.
Yeah, you can't talk about anything you see that goes on in this room.
No.
You can't speak about anything you witness. And when you leave, it is never to be repeated.
Sheesh.
And if not, we're coming for you. It's a social club.
You're going to lose your business deals, too. You're going to lose your deals.
Well, that's not your endorsements. And it said...
You're not a team player.
Exactly. Don't you see the parallels between the Greek times and now? It's the same thing. These are the inclusive groups that you got to do debauchery. You have to allow people to be debaucherous towards you, and then you're in the enclave. It says, from then on, Jewish boys, at least those who could afford to go to a gymnasium, could participate in competitions in the Seleucid Empire. So the way the Greeks had it, they had different empires in different areas, and the best of your group went to the big show, went to the big Olympic festival. It said in this way they came into contact with the elite of the empire. So if you was a really great athlete, you would get to rub shoulders with the high echelon guys who will give you high positions and jobs to set you in your life the way you want to be. The further you went, the better endorsements, the better life you had, the better money you were able to get, and the better jobs you was able to get. So this was the motivation to work out in the gym, to get that major league deal, to get that contract, get that NFL contract. It's the same thing. You bust your tail to get the big deal, to get the big money, to be debaucherized, and your spirit to be destroyed once you get up there. So then it says, in this way they came into contact with the elite of the empire.
And that's sports.
Yep.
That's entertainment.
Yep.
Comedy.
Academia.
That's fashion. The fashion industry is all these industries.
Yep.
They require the same thing.
Yep. It's the truth.
Politics.
Mm-hmm.
Theater.
Yeah. Theater.
Theater.
Yeah, exactly. It says, in this way they came into contact with the elite of the empire, enabling them to obtain prestigious official posts. It goes without saying that this did not apply to the majority of taxpayers, and it would seem that the unequal division of taxes and privileges led to tensions. So even back then, the rich didn't pay taxes. The rich didn't pay taxes. The poor paid taxes. The elite sat back here, all the privileges, and the broke had to sit back and pay for all these taxes. So if you think about it, Jason is sitting back here having the poor pay Antiochus for that 300 something talents he promised them, and for that $150 in revenue that came from the poor.
But he'll get it back on the fees to get into the gym.
Con. You can say that. You can say that I get sued. And yes, I would say yes. Then it said, because once again, that whole breaking dealt with bringing those house men into the house. What do you think they had to do to be a part of the house, to be the house slave?
Yep.
What do you think they had to do to become the house slave? You had to do more than the field hand was going to do to maintain your position. So yes, hell yeah. Then it keeps showing you in the Greek society, the higher up you went, the more you had to give up your morals and your beliefs. Isn't that sound familiar? The more you want to get up in American society, the more you got to give up your beliefs. Yes.
It's crazy. Back to the hat thing. After you have to go through all of that inordinate affection, I'm gonna watch my words. Then you get that hat of a general.
Yeah. Then you are elite.
And it's the same today. I mean, people that has an inordinate affection are praised on jobs. They have the bigger jobs. They have the
bigger opportunities.
Positions.
Yeah. I know, that's the point.
That's the point.
In society now and in Greek society, you had to give up the flesh to gain in the world. And this is what Jason was pushing. This was the lesson.
Look at the scripture on that too. Numbers chapter 11. Numbers chapter 11. Read verse 32 and 33.
Numbers 11 and 32. And the people stood up.
Hold on. Read verse 18, and then we'll jump over.
Numbers 11 and verse 18. And say thou unto the people, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh.
Go ahead.
For ye have wept in the ears of the Lord.
So Moses told the children of Israel, hey, listen, tomorrow clean yourself up, because all that meat you've been crying about, you've been crying that you want meat. He says, well, clean yourself up, because tomorrow the Most High is going to feed you with meat. Read on.
Ye have wept in the ears of the Lord.
He said, you've been crying in the ears of the Lord because you want meat so bad. Read.
Saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt.
It was better that we was where?
In Egypt.
So we still wanted another culture's what?
Way.
And lifestyle.
Yep.
We still wanted another society's way of living. We liked Egypt better. The Most High stripped us out of Egypt. We still wanted that Egyptian culture.
Yep.
And everything that goes with it. Read.
Therefore, the Lord will give you flesh.
He said, therefore, the Lord will give you what you asked for. You cried about it.
Mm-hmm.
You go get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the catch, though. Read verse 33.
11 and 33, Numbers. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth.
What does it mean?
Hey, Gideon.
That means when you cry so much about wanting another culture's way of life, and then the Most High give it to you. Read.
Ere it was chewed,
It says, and while you're chewing it,
Yeah, bro.
in the midst of that means you're in the middle of enjoying it. You're at the height of satisfaction of having that meat between your teeth. Read on.
The wrath of the Lord was kindled against that people. And the Lord smote the people with a very great plague.
Why would the Most High give it to them and then kill them with it? Kill them while they're chewing it.
Because he didn't want to give it to them. So this you gonna fight for it? I'm gonna give it to you, but you ain't get it the way you want it. You're not gonna get this blessing the way I'm gonna punish you with what you got.
And that's what the Most High. And you know how people want that lifestyle, and then how people want that Greek lifestyle and culture. And who had the most HIV in America?
Yep.
Who was the highest AIDS patient, highest count of AIDS patients and HIV? Even though it was their culture that introduced that lifestyle to us. But who suffered the most from it? That's what the Most High does all the time. You want this lifestyle, you want this way of life, you complain about it so much, I'm going to give it to you. And it's going to be to your destruction. And you're not going to enjoy it the way you think you're going to enjoy it.
Yep.
And you're going to do all this selling out and all this compromising and all this complaining, and you're never going to be satisfied. And the Most High is not going to let us be happy with that lifestyle because it wasn't meant for us. That Greek way of living wasn't meant for us. That Egyptian lifestyle wasn't meant for us. This American way of living ain't meant for us. It's not meant for us.
Kinda.
And you want it so bad they give it to you, then you suffer behind it. And that's how the Most High do it.
And this how the Most High broke us down, and why we got faced so much death and killing after we embraced this approach. The more we embraced it, we were setting ourselves up for a big fall. The abomination of desolation came because we loved that Greek stuff. We wanted it so much. He said, I'm going to force this down your throat. And I'm going to make this Greek stuff's going to make you sick. You're going to get so much of the Greek. When you want the Greek way, I'm going to give you the Greek way.
You ask for it, I'm going to give it to you.
In spades. And you're going to be sick of it. I'm going to give you so much of the Greek way.
Now you got a Zeus head in the temple.
Kinda. And when you're getting killed and murdered and forced to sit back and sacrifice pork on the altar and eating pork in front of everybody. As defiled that is, we wanted that in. That's what we wanted. That's what we were doing. And it wasn't a small amount of people. It was a lot of people that were doing this.
Asking for the Greek culture.
Yes. Wanting it, yearning it. Being proactive in it. So, you got done with that?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to 2 Maccabees 4 and 13. I took longer than normal, scripturally. I mean, not scripturally, but just historically, just to bring things in context. So when you read a verse like this, now it makes more sense. Read that.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 13. Now such was the height of Greek fashions, an increase.
The height of Greek fashions was that hat. You wore that hat, you were on a level. But what did you have to do to get that hat? You had to be somebody's girl. For years. This wasn't like a thing. You had to be his thing. For 5 years of your life. Your whole youth is thrown away. Being some older man's property. You got a hat. You got a hat as a reward.
This is their graduation.
And as soon as you graduate from this, you're going to go into a good job. You're going to go into a great job. And you'll be automatically high society. But there's a cost. Read on.
An increase of heathenish manners.
So now you start understanding what an increase of heathenish manners really means. Now these scriptures start coming to life more. And it's not just, what does heathenish manners mean? Now you're starting to see what it is. The art is debauchery. We start sitting back here and the art is pouring to us. We're getting off to this art. We go from no art to all this art and all these imagery. All this imagery is saturated in our minds. Now we want it. Now the elite are the ones who are initiating it. But now the poor, like in the writings say, now the poor want to be a part of it. Now they're doing the same thing on a lower level. They might not be invited into the gymnasiums. But you don't think they were sitting back here? You don't think they were sitting back here making their own ghetto gymnasiums at?
The side versions of it.
The side versions of it. You have the gymnasiums, and the broke folk want to be like the rich, but they do their own version of what the gyms is about.
And because the poverty is so extreme with our people, the more poor you are, the more you have nothing to lose, and the more you're willing to go as far as you need to go to get where you want to be. The poor you are, they know how to market the poor kids, because for the sake of not going back to poverty, they'll do anything.
Yeah.
And they know they'll do anything.
Never broke again. Whoever the
never broke again. NBA
that.
boy, never broke again. So they'll talk about shooting, killing, murdering, drive-bys, whatever topic of discussion you want to put on a rap album, they're gonna put on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever dress you want them to wear on the Hollywood set, they're gonna put it on.
Let me get an AK-47, an M16, and a dress. And some locs on at the same time and rapping it out.
And it called the album Jeffrey.
Call me Jeffrey.
Yeah, Playboy Cardi is like the highest level of this right now. There's Playboy Cardi.
Okay.
This dude's
He don't even say words out. He's like,
he pushes. He's always pushing some modernistic, neo culture kind of vibration, and it's always an effeminate, strong. He's like Dwayne Wade Part 2.
Yeah.
You talking about the album where he had panties on, he had a thong on?
What?
His thong was sticking out his skirt?
Come on.
Yeah, Playboy Cardi, bro. This dude's he's on the same level. He's
Rich
going
the Kid.
Yep.
Rich the
I don't
Kid.
know none of these guys. It's horrible.
All these cats were
Kid.
sleeping on couches out there.
And they're gonna do whatever they gotta take.
And they'll do whatever they'll do whatever it takes to get the album out, to get some money up.
Yep. To get a name.
But they make a deal with Balenciaga for the fashion.
And that's how they get their side money.
That's how they.
Because you really don't make no money doing the songs. You don't really get no cut. So you gotta do the side deals. And be a fashion icon.
Yeah.
But what do you gotta represent being that fashion icon?
A$AP Rocky wearing dresses. Kanye wearing dresses.
It was a kilt. It wasn't a dress. I'm just messing with you.
It's
But that's what they push. That's how they word it. It's the same way that they was wording what homosexuality was. We don't call it that. It's just love. Oh, that don't change what it is. Just because you call it a different thing, it's still sodomy, and it's still against the Lord. You can call it a kill all you want as a dress.
Yeah.
It doesn't pertain to a man. You can call it what you want and spin it how you want. It's still evil. But the evil is spun by verbiage and wordplay.
Language, yeah.
But it's just showing you the level of corruption. It worked from the top and worked its way down. And these heathenistic customs, it was just the elites in the gymnasiums, but the regular Israelites were doing wickedness too, finding their way to do wickedness. So, read that verse again in verse 13.
Verse 13. Now such was the height of Greek fashions, and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch.
Yeah, he was a wretch because he was, listen, you know what he was doing with them little boys? He made it clear what he was doing. Now reading about the Greek culture, you know what he was about. He was an ungodly wretch. Read on.
And no high priest.
So hold that verse and go to Matthew 5 and verse 19 to give you a better idea what type of cat this is. Matthew 5 and 19.
Okay, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 19.
Yep. Read that.
Okay, it says,
Whosoever.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom
Listen,
of heaven.
this guy was teaching he was going against the biggest commandments. He wasn't even sitting back here and overshooting the least of it. He was sitting back here and completely teaching Israel to go against the Heavenly Father completely. He was a major figure. He says, this guy that you're reading in Matthew 5, he'll be the least in the kingdom. Jason was even worse than that. He ain't making the kingdom, huh? He's teaching Israel to go completely against the Heavenly Father. He said, if you sit back here and teach Israel to not be accountable on every level of the Scriptures, you're going to be judged for that. This guy told Israel to break the complete law. He got a worse punishment coming. He sat back here and led an entire generation to destruction. That's literally what he did.
He changed the culture, literally.
Literally changed the culture. We're going to call Jerusalem Antiochia. We're going to set a whole nother set of laws in this country. And the crazy, he wasn't even as bad as the next high priest that comes in. He was worse. Let that verse go and go to Jeremiah 5, verse 26. This verse right here explains more about what Jason is. Jeremiah 5 and verse 26.
Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 26.
And 28. 26 and 28.
For among the people are found wicked men.
Listen, Jason is a wicked man. He says, amongst Israel, we're not all holy and spiritual. There's a lot of wicked men in Israel. Read on.
They lay wait as he that seemeth snares.
Setteth snares. Setteth snares.
Setteth snares.
Don't forget, Jason was the oldest of the three sons. He was not allowed to be high priest for a reason. While he was waiting to be high priest, he didn't work on his spirit. He just laid in wait and set snares and set traps to get himself back into power and get what he wants. Read on.
They set a trap. They catch men.
What do you think he's doing? He's catching men into that wicked way. He is alluring our people into really being like the Greeks. The movement with Simon was just to teach Israel, get Israel to be motivated to play ball with the Greeks. Jason comes in and gets us to embrace the Greeks and the Greek culture. Okay? Then read verse 28.
Verse 28. They are waxing fat. They shine.
They're rich. Listen, Jason is getting paid now. He's getting paid. He's got fame. He's got diplomatic connections. He's rubbing elbows with the rich. He went from zero to nothing. He went from ashy to classy.
Yeah.
He went from ashy to classy overnight. He's got money. He's rich. Everything's good. He just had to sit back here and set the tone and ruin young people's lives. Because that's what he did. He's ruining young people's lives. And he don't give a damn about it. He's making the poor more poor. He's making the poor envious of this wicked way of life. And these young people, he's destroying them in these gymnasiums. Destroying their entire inward system. Their spirit. The crazy is the Greeks can live this way and they don't got the same effect on their spirit than Jay got. You put Jake in this, they're not the same people after this side. It wasn't meant for us to be in that zone. Read on.
They are waxing fat. They shine. Yea, they oppress the deeds.
No. They overpass.
They shine. Yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked.
Jason is overpassing the deeds of the wicked. He's doing more than what he had to do. He didn't have to sit back here and change Jerusalem to Antiochia. He didn't have to bring laws in there. All he had to do was sit back here and promise some money, and he was going to get it. All he had to do was promise an increased revenue that Onias was going to provide, and he would have got the kingdom. He said, we overpass the wicked men. We do more. We're more wicked. Once we're committed to wickedness, we're more zealous to be wicked than the nations.
Yep.
We're more zealous to be negative than the nations are zealous to be negative. You're going to read later on that Onias gives too much money for the Olympic feast. He said, this guy gave too much money. So they just took the money and took it a different direction. Like, why is Jason overdoing these payments? He's overdoing this Greek shit. Because that's how we do. We're over the top. And whatever we are in, we give our spirit to.
And when do we ever overdo payments?
Exactly. Never. We're overdoing payments, overdoing wickedness. overdoing everything. Read on.
They judge not the cause of the fathers.
You think that Jason sits back here and gives two you know what's about the effect that his movement is going to have on the young people, the fatherless sons? Those fatherless sons are just going to be a target. Those fatherless sons that have ambition, that don't know what to do, who's going to teach them? Don't go to those gyms. You'll ruin your life going to those gyms.
Nobody.
Yep.
Nobody's going to defend that young person. Because these wicked people, what makes them overpass the deeds of the wicked is how many people they're going to affect. It's one thing for him to be wicked. He was wicked doing this. He was doing this lifestyle before he got the chance to be the high priest. Now he's overpassing it because now he's ruining multiple more lives than himself. You don't care how many people he's destroying.
Domino effect.
Con. The rich want to do this. Now the poor want to do this. Everybody wants to be Greek. Everyone wants to have this gay art in their house. Destroying people's lives. Read on.
Yet they prosper.
And the problem, this is what affects people trying to live right. This guy is prospering, pushing his Greek way. He got money, he got fame, he got respect. So what does the poor black kid want to do now? Don't want to stay broke, following the law, or don't want to sit back and give up these laws and morals and get paid? This is always the dilemma that hits Jake. What do I do? Am I going to be a good boy and work this basic job and be broke and be suffering, but keep my morals? Or am I going to sit back here and let go of my morals and get paid? This is the dilemma now and during the Greek time. Read on.
And the right of the needy do they not judge?
Because the poor gets poorer and the rich get richer. We like to sit back here and talk about Esau and how their policies only benefit the rich and the poor suffer. Guess what? When we had power, we did the same thing. When we had power, we made policies to keep the rich rich and the poor poor. We were the same oppressors.
Same
We
spirit.
were just as bad.
It's the same spirit.
It's the same spirit. Read on. Give me verse 29.
29. Shall I not visit for these things?
You don't think the Most High is going to come down and punish Jerusalem for all this wicked actions? Hell yeah, he is. He has to. He has to come down and visit Israel for this level of wickedness and this level of debauchery. Read on.
Saith the Lord, shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this?
He's like, the Most High has got to be avenged. Because the Most High is forgotten now.
Yeah.
Now the Most High is forgotten. The temple is about to be shut down. No Bible is being taught. No sacrifices are being offered. People are walking around here in Greek clothes, doing Greek acts with Greek gay art in their house. Well, I'm like, this is bull.
Yeah.
I got to come down here and deal with these guys now. Now I got to. But how does the Lord come down and visit people? With armies, with war. That's how the Most High comes and visits people.
And
with war.
And they also brought in their brothels. We can't forget about the strip clubs they brought into Jerusalem.
They're bringing the pyramid down there.
Yeah. Frank Ocean.
Bro. It was yes.
You know that brothel.
It was that reverse strip club. Right?
Yeah.
This is happening. Keep going now.
Verse 30.
The petticoat. Keep going. It was a spot back in the day, man. You just couldn't. You couldn't miss it. It was right there in your face, downtown. But keep going,
A wonderful and a horrible thing is committed in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely.
They're not teaching the Bible anymore. The leaders are sitting back here pushing the Greek way. Read on.
And the priests bear rule by their means.
They bear rule by how they want to bear rule.
Get their money out.
I'm about my money and pushing these gymnasiums so I can get paid.
Good deal.
And I can get off on it.
Even if that means compromising your spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. It was about bearing rule by how they want to bear rule. Read on.
And my people love to have it.
And that's the problem. We love it.
Yeah.
The people are like, hell yeah. Nobody said, man, these leaders are off. They're bugged out. I'm not following them. It's like the people want to do negative regardless. They'll just keep their negative passions on pause if there's a good leader on top. That's how it comes off.
Well,
If there's a strong leader,
wait our
they'll
turn.
just keep their passions in the dark until a real negative person gets to the top, and I can freely be who I am.
It was underground.
Yep.
And you had your groves.
Yep.
And then now you have the opportunity to be prevalent and in the open.
I never forgot
What's your name?
Josiah. Josiah was sitting back here and killing all type of idolatry. But as soon as he died, like idolatry rose back up again. How did it rise so quick? It never left. They just kept it cool until he passed on. And then everything was business as usual. This is why it says our people love it. They love a liberal leader.
Yep.
They want a liberal leader. Because if they can get a liberal leader, they can be who they want to be.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The men who waited upon Antiochus and obtained permission to set up a gymnasium at Jerusalem acted quite of their own volition. He said it wasn't Antiochus wasn't pushing the gym over there.
God,
He wasn't pushing.
They wanted it.
They wanted the gymnasium. They asked for it.
please.
Yep.
Bro, this just explains the magnitude of the wickedness we were already operating in. He says, our people loved it. The priest sat back here and pushed and operated for gain, and the people loved it. Read on.
Love to have it so. And what will ye do in the end thereof?
What's the Most High going to do in the end? Or what we going to do to, or better yet, Most High like, what are we going to do to ourselves at the end? This is why he has to intervene. When things get this bad, now he's got to sit back here and get enemies to come up to destroy Israel.
Yeah.
At this particular point, he's like, okay, Nebuchadnezzar's coming. He's going to come and put you guys in order. Now it's like Antiochus Epiphanes, he's got to come. I got to change his heart and zero in to get you guys because you guys are going too far. Yes, sir.
You know when you have an unraveling of leadership and you have the authority starting to break and compromise, we like it that way because they say when the teacher's away,
Cat's away.
when the cat's away, the mouse play.
Yeah.
That means that as long as you got your back turned on what I'm doing,
Hell yeah.
and as long as you're not paying attention to me,
Yeah.
you're not focused on me, I can do what the hell I want to do. So as long as you're distracted by all these games and Olympic games and gymnasiums and
courting men. Listen, the high priest is at the little boy's house,
yeah,
giving them flowers, and playing that music like that old movie in the 80s, playing the music, a little love song to the little girl in that movie, I forgot it was John Cusack. That's what they doing this with little boys, courting little young men,
when they on their Tour de France.
They doing this, This is like you're doing all they gotta do to recruit these little boys they side out, buying them gifts,
Yeah.
buying them toys.
But as long as you're doing that, I'm free to do what I want to do. And that's why we like leadership that's distracted and not focused and not austere.
God.
Because it gives me time to get my freedom. I can execute my freedom, and I can get loose and do what the hell I want to do and have no authority.
Yep.
That's why kids love when parents ain't home. Because when the parents ain't home,
They going for the weekend.
I get it. Oh, they going for the weekend? Oh man, it's gonna be a party over here.
Yep.
Or I'm about to get loose. Or I'm about to hang out all day. I'm gonna play video games all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids love when they no authority at the house. So they can flex and do what they want to do. But it's like that also when there's no religious authority in our nation as well.
It's all facts.
Then
bro.
the people want freedom.
But the point is, they wanted it before the authority.
Yeah.
They said they want the freedom before. It's just the person that's operating with the discipline. There's no way else you accept that way of life. But by the nature of us, we want freedom anyway.
But the scriptures say one sinner destroyed much good.
Kinda.
It doesn't take much to destroy a whole generation, a whole population, a whole people, whole culture. It just takes one outside person bringing in something that's from the outside inside the neighborhood. I remember when it wasn't gangs in San Antonio. I'm from San Antonio originally, but I remember we didn't have any gangs in San Antonio. And on my street, we had one of my neighbors named Archie. Archie went to go visit his family up in Chicago for the summer. So when Archie came back, Archie was twisting his fingers up.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
What does this finger twist mean?
Archie was twisting his fingers up and explaining a newfound way of life and gang culture that was already existing in Chicago, and brought it down to my street, and everybody would start twisting their fingers up and start showing us what he learned in Chicago. This is forks up. This right here is forks up. This right here, if you this and this gang in Chicago, this is what you represent. You disciple this vice lord. We wasn't wearing that. We wasn't talking about that. He was listening to music. He started spinning the record backwards. He said we played the music backwards.
Yeah.
You can hear the devil talking when you play the record backwards.
That's crazy.
So we started playing the record backwards. All this introduction was from one guy who went to go visit some family out of state and
Crazy,
came
yeah.
back with a whole new way of living that we didn't know nothing about.
And there was curiosity there.
There was curiosity there, but he was teaching some illicit behaviors that we know nothing about. But that's when you get these, when you let outside individuals have an influence on your culture, you're gonna bring in some stuff that you're not ready for. And that's how gangs spread throughout America. All it takes is one person from such and such Crip gang or Piru gang to go live in Arkansas. Now they banging in Little Rock.
They're banging in Little Rock, guy. It only took one.
It only took one.
Yep.
It took one to teach them the code, so to speak, or teach them the culture.
Yep.
And now everybody can. Now you got a whole street who didn't have a divided street.
Yep.
Now this set is against this set.
Then DJ Quick is saying San Antonio is just,
It's just like
Compton.
Compton.
How?
Yeah.
How was San Antonio like Compton? Somebody brought the set trip out
It only
here.
takes one person with an outside mentality
Yep.
to destroy and corrupt everybody and pollute everybody.
Ghana. And then didn't you tell me like the prison rate went so high in LA? I mean San Antonio. Right?
Oh my goodness!
When the gangbanging happened out here, right?
When the gangbang happened and gangbang spiraled out of control in San Antonio. San Antonio in one year became the drive-by capital of the United States. It was the drive-by capital.
Crazy, guy. That's crazy.
Of all the United States, we were the drive-by capital of the U.S. People didn't realize you was getting shot at the bus stop. You was getting shot at on the bus. I was on the bus. Bullets flying through the bus.
God.
On the bus.
Shot in the ball.
Shot in the mall. Shot on the bus. Bus stops. Walking on foot. Barbershops. It was that bad. Where the jail rate went up. It just the murder rate was increased. But it was the gang code. It was the music. Like we talking about the art. It was the art. It was the dress code, the khakis, the rag hanging, creased up. You know what I'm saying? The button down Dickie suit. You know, with the Chuck Taylors. It's the dress code. It's the music. It's the art. It's the look.
NWA.
Yeah. Then you got the activities behind it. Then all that's following is the behavior. The behavior is going to fall right in line with the theme that's being pushed. The theme is the gangster theme. So it's a gangster theme, it's going to be gangster behavior. Because that's the theme. And that's what it became. And that's why you see every city in America has been polluted either by crack, drugs, gang, some negative influence that came from the outside.
Well, listen, man. I don't know any other way to explain how corruptive this movement really affected us. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 real quick. Deuteronomy 32, verse 31 through 33.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 31.
Yep.
Okay.
Now this is just an explanation about the Greeks. The Greeks are what they are. But the problem is we were overpassing what was naturally inside of them. When you sit back and read everything about that agape love and their ideas of homosexuality, I believe it. They didn't look at it. They looked at dealing with a young boy like a woman. It was natural to them. But scripturally, the scriptures back up that thinking. Read on.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 31. For their rock is not as our rock.
The nation's foundation is not as our foundation. We are a different people with a different set of rules and a different type of spirit that we live by. Read on.
Even our enemies themselves being judged.
Mm-hmm.
For their vine is of the vine of Sodom.
Listen, the nation's vine and their foundation is of Sodom. So when you hear about them talking about agape love and this pedastry and this is how common in them. It is common in them because this is what's in their spirit.
It's rooted in them.
It's rooted in them to be into boys and to think it's a rite of passage. This is their nature. So, hell yes, it's how they roll. The problem is that we want to be like it. Their vine is of the vine of Sodom. Read on.
And of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall.
Meaning the fruit of their works. The fruit of their works end up spoiling a person. Ends up bringing up a poisonous result. He's like, what's inside of them isn't Sodom and Gomorrah. And the fruit of their work, the fruit of their vine, are grapes of gall. It produces weakness and sickness and confusion. And the opposite of a masculine man. You produce watered down versions of who the Most High created you to be. So he's like, their approach, their methodology, their way of operating is going to just water you down and make you sick and make you corrupted. He's like, this is what the works of the Greeks are going to give you. Read on.
Their clusters are bitter.
There's nothing good that comes from the fruit of their lifestyle. Their belief system, their ideology, their thinking. The fruit of it, the fruit of the vine, is what you get from it. What are we getting from the Greek way? Death and destruction and sickness and insanity. That's when this is happening. I can't really go online, but when you start dealing with those multiple letter movements, a lot of those people deal with mental sickness. And then after there was a person that did an interview, like after they performed those actions, those surgeries, the mental illness gets even worse afterwards.
Of course.
He says the fruit of it is gone. All that stuff, and you're more depressed and you're more mentally messed up, and now you need to live off pills to balance your mind and your hormones and your psychology.
And there's an industry for that.
Yeah.
Every element.
Now you got to live off pills and hormone pills and psychological pills to balance you out. Because it wasn't supposed to be that way in the first place. And this is what Jason was bringing to the nation. Like they're reading, they said, oh yeah, the young boys experiencing that's going to make them more of a man. That don't even make sense.
It's a lie, bro.
That is a pure, blatant lie. How many of those young men just turned that way for the rest of their lives and never married? You don't think that was prevalent in the Greek way? How many people and how many of our people just became that way? Those young boys who didn't have a choice. And they just became that way and their life was ruined. Because of this man and the people that backed him and the movement that they supported. It's really a tragedy. Why the Most High got to come in here and do so much damage? And what we're going to read later on is a lot of death. There was literal civil war and death on by the thousands before Antiochus came in and killed even more thousands. Most had to allow death and murdering and killing and fighting to tear this shit up from the inside. Like, I can't have this. I have to visit this place. And when the Lord visits somewhere, death and destruction follows. It's really sad, man.
It's really Jason's fault.
God, it's Jason's fault, but the problem is it was Jason and all those people vying for that top spot.
And the word Jason means healer. The word Jason means
That's the irony.
healer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or cure.
He poisoned and defiled everything.
But he really
He
was.
brought the gall into the next level. But don't forget, everything was leading up to these attacks against Onias already. There was attacks against Onias. There was a strong push to go this direction. And he just said, there's no more push. We're opening the doors. We're letting it all
Floodgates.
in. We're letting the floodgates in. We're going to bring it all in. There's not going to be a fight anymore. So now, if you want to do it the Jew way, you better stay over there and say nothing. Because this movement's happening. Oh, so let me keep reading in Deuteronomy. Keep going.
Verse 33.
No, I don't want bread. I'm good with that. Yeah. Read verse 33. You're fine.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 33. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps.
So listen, if a dragon poisons you, what was going to be your sentence after that? You was going to die. If you sat back here and got the venom of an asp, which is a snake, were you not going to die? So what he's saying is, following the methodology of this sodomite approach, the approach of the nations, was going to be automatic death to whoever got close to it. So what do you think was happening? Automatic spiritual death and literal death was coming to everybody that was going to those gymnasiums. Everybody that was participating in those wicked acts. Death was coming. This is what Moses said, touch not what?
Taste not.
Don't even get close to this approach, because death is coming to you. And this guy was pushing this amongst the entire nation. Yes, something, Sean?
Yeah, I can't find it, bro. It talks about at the gymnasiums they have an instructor that oils your body down, and when you're at the gym, you douse yourself with heavy, copious amounts of oil. All the bodies are oiled up.
You're lathered up.
Yeah, everybody's lathered up in the gym. All the men are lathered up. All the boys are lathered up. And then
is it Diddy oil a lot?
It's baby oil. That's what I was trying to get to.
It's Diddy oil.
Yeah, there's a bunch of baby oil going on at the gym.
Oh my God!
I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. It's olive oil, but
I know.
I'm just making fun, saying it's
the same
It's
spirit.
Diddy oil. It's the same spirit.
It's-
huh?
yeah.
The same spirit.
because for those that know, Diddy had like 1,000 bottles of baby oil in his
Yeah.
house. But I'm saying the gym instructors were known for having excessive amounts of baby oil. They said at the gym, sometimes the floor will be covered in baby oil or olive oil.
Come on.
And I can't find it. I read
What
it.
did it say again?
It says that at any point in time, the floors could be doused and covered completely with oils while they exercise. And so if I find it,
I need some more oil.
Yeah.
Bring more oil.
and they carry. Everybody at the gym had these sticks called sturgils, and we could probably put it up on the show on the camera.
You got to show it to me. I
Yeah,
have it.
I'll show it to you. It's
Well,
called
email it to me now.
it's called a sturgill. And a sturgill is a looped piece of metal, like a spoon, like a bent spoon, a hook, that you scrape your body with. Once you oil your body, you're done exercise, you're done wrestling, and you scrape the oil off with the sturgill. I showed.
How much oil is oil? You got to scrape it off like
They
that.
completely cover themselves with oil. Like it's
That's
everybody.
layers, bro.
It's layers, bro.
They have and this is like Turkish, right? But they have a oil wrestling festival, a tradition of Balkan sport. It's a Balkan sport competition now, but it's been going on for a long period of time now. But those traditions are still going on.
I don't think it's completely new though.
No, that's not new. It's just oil wrestling, but you're just seeing like
Still hints of it there.
traces of the culture that go out. Like everything goes out in traces.
Huh? Listen, I've taken the time to explain, or we have taken time to explain culture, so we can see the magnitude of how bad it was, and we're about to get to the worst part of it. Or I'm not going to say the worst part of it. One of the most painful prices to get to this level of acceptance. Let's go to real quick to First Maccabees, chapter 1.
This is it right here.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm sending it to you.
First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. But before you read it, let's show this image real quick. So you sent it off already?
Not yet.
I gotta get it, man. I gotta. We gotta.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's do this. If I go here, it's going. I gotta get to that later because this is going to take a whole other
This
thing.
ain't that important. If I find the reading, then this is even better, bro.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna go to first. Now we're gonna need some Josephus work too. So it's First Maccabees 1, verse 14 and 15. Then we need the Josephus and this Life of Greece book.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 2.
No, for 14. 1 verse 14 and 15.
Chapter 1 and verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen.
So First Maccabees kind of gives a gloss over of it. Second Maccabees goes into more detail of how bad it was. And then we sit back and we read Second Maccabees chapter 4, and we expound on it, just on the history of the Greeks. We have a better glimpse of how much of the heathenist customs were and what they were. Well, let's continue.
And made themselves uncircumcised.
Stop. How do you make yourself uncircumcised when you're already circumcised? The issue was this. Once you're in the gym and you're nude and you have globs of oil all over you, you're all saturated and stuff. The problem is if you're around Greek people and you're preparing for the Olympics, what you don't want to look like is a weirdo amongst the Greeks. The Greeks were naturally uncircumcised and never took care of that scenario. But the Jew, what made us a Jew was that we were circumcised. So how do you make yourself circumcised? How do you make yourself uncircumcised when you were once circumcised? This is what's happening. And it says, on top of the gyms and the debauchery and the pedestry, now they have to sit back here and make themselves uncircumcised from a position of being circumcised. Now, how does that happen? How does that work? We're going to go into the Josephus real quick and do some explaining there. We're going to go into the Josephus, book 12, chapter 5, paragraph 1, towards the bottom. It says, it is paragraph 1 at the bottom, and it says, and the Jewish way of living according to them.
Book 12, chapter 5.
Paragraph 1 is at the
Paragraph
bottom,
1.
and it says, and the Jewish way of living according to them, and to follow the king's laws, and the Grecian way of living. Is at the bottom of the first paragraph. Does anybody have that number attached? Because I don't. My book doesn't have the
12, 5, and 1.
but it's a number. Because I don't. Mine doesn't have that number.
Let me get it. 12, 5, and 1. And what number? Where is it at?
It says, and the Jewish way of living according to them, and to follow the king's laws, and the Grecian way of living. Wherefore they desired to have permission to build a gymnasium at Jerusalem.
You're going to start at 240 because that's the best way.
Okay, cool.
240.
Yeah, line 240 on paragraph 1.
I see that. Okay. Line 240, chapter 1. Chapter 5.
Book 12.
Book 12.
Chapter 5.
Chapter 5.
Paragraph 1.
Paragraph 1, line 240. But the greater part of the people assisted Jason, and by that means Menelaus,
Yes.
and the sons of Tobias were distressed and retired to Antiochus.
We'll go into that later. But what you're going to read later on is that Jason had his faction. We're reading about that now. But later on, Menelaus, which is his other brother, had a faction too. And there was a big war amongst the two negative high priests who was going to be top dog in Israel. But it was just between one negative guy and a worse negative guy. Onias was already removed out the picture. But continue.
That they were desirous to leave the laws of their country and the Jewish way of living according to them,
Mm-hmm.
and to follow the king's laws.
And that's why they had a king or a municipal house in Israel helping dictate and teach these Greek laws. Read on.
And the Grecian way of living.
Okay.
Wherefore, they desired his permission to build them a gymnasium at Jerusalem.
And we understand that too. Read on.
And when he had given them leave, they also hid the circumcision of their genitals.
Stop. This is still the same thing. To hide the circumcision of your genitals is the same thing as saying in 1 Maccabees 1 and 14 and 15 that they made themselves uncircumcised. But how do you hide your circumcision when you already removed the circumcision from the foreskin of your stuff? How do you do it? This is crazy. So continue reading.
That even when they were naked, they might appear to be Greeks.
So this is when you read in Jeremiah 5 that we overpass the deeds of the wicked. The only reason the Greeks sat back here and had their workout style the way they had it, it's because hey, they were naturally uncircumcised. We had to go above and beyond the call of duty and turn our circumcision into uncircumcision to fit in. We're doing extra to fit in and kiss tail. Okay, read on.
Accordingly, they left off all the customs that belonged to their own country and imitated the practices of the other nations.
Listen, he's telling you how bad and how far we went. The people as a whole imitated Greek ways in every single way, thinking, approach, lifestyle. And the Most High is like, these guys deserve death.
You can't even recognize them anymore.
Conduct, dress, carry philosophy, religious beliefs, sexuality, all of it. The men left their wives and started being at the bathhouses. They started being at the symposiums. I have a meeting, babe. Be back.
Something to do.
Going to the Buffalo Lounge.
The water buffalo lounge. Yeah, remember that?
The Blue Oyster.
No, it Blue Oyster, but it was the Blue Oyster, but it was called the Water Buffalo Lounge. The Bear Club. You don't want to be there, bro. So the point is, now read the bottom of it, the foreword. It says, this word gymnasium is at the bottom.
This word gymnasium properly denotes a place where the exercises were performed naked.
Once again, gymnos means naked. Gymnasiums, it was working out naked. Read on.
Which, because it would naturally distinguish circumcised Jews from uncircumcised Gentiles, these Jewish apostates endeavored to appear uncircumcised by means of a
surgical
operation.
So now he's letting you know that they had to sit back here and go under the knife
all the way out there
to reappear uncircumcised again, to fit in, so that these white boys will say, yeah, you're Greek. We mess with you.
You can come in the club.
You can come in the club and hang out with us.
You're accepted.
Exactly. He's telling you the extent of the deformities we had to go through to fit in, to be the Greek way. It's one thing to compromise your sexuality. They took it to the next level. Everything. They gave up the laws. They gave up their sexuality. They gave up everything that made them to be this type of person. Now I was going to explain this. We got one more story. Then we're going to go into how it's done.
I have a question. I mean, isn't that impossible?
No, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to read this point, and then we're going to go into how these guys did it. Okay? So now we're going to go into Life of Greece. It's page 582, paragraph 1 again. It says, a gymnasium was open in Jerusalem, and Jewish youths, even priests, like Jason, you know Jason was there, smiling out. He says, took part naked in athletic games, all oiled up. Some young Jews, in the ardor of Hellenism, meaning in the spirit of being Hellenistic, underwent operations to remedy the physiological shortcomings that might reveal their race. So they're like, listen, I'm circumcised, so I got to do something about this circumcision so I don't get embarrassed in the gym. Now this is the first thing I want to show. Now these images, you got to do it to show the point. I'm doing it only for understanding. When you sit back here and look at how the Greeks, what they use in their circumcision patterns, they were all naked. But look at the image right there.
Yep.
Look at the image. If you sit back and look at the image, this is a young boy who's learning to throw the javelin. To prevent all the body parts moving from a man when he's running and jumping, what they were doing was taking the uncircumcised foreskin and tying it around their waist, so that their member wouldn't be moving around when they're running. So instead of just wearing drawers like a regular person would, or some compression shorts, they still going to be naked, but they would just use the foreskin and tie it with some string and some twine and tie it around their stomach.
Like a Crown Royal bag.
Yeah, like it's like a Crown Royal bag. and they tie it around themselves so they can run and do their thing, and their body parts are showing, but it doesn't impede their working out, or they're wrestling on oil, or they're running a 100-yard dash, whatever the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
It didn't impede it. So now the Jew is sitting back here saying, I can't tie my junk like that. I'm going to look bad.
Yep.
So what do I do to fit in when I can't do that no more? I can't do what they're doing. They're going to know I'm a non-Israelite and I'm not really about this life. And they're going to shun me away and push me aside, and I'm not going to be allowed to go on this I won't be able to go to the Olympics.
Or the worship of Dionysus, or whatever little
I won't go to these temples to be accepted.
The festivals that they had.
I'm gonna be embarrassed. So what do I got to do to become uncircumcised again? Okay, so this is what happened. Here's some writing. Historically, this is what happened. It said there are two procedures in the ancient world designed to undo circumcision: infibulation and epispasm. Infibulation, according to a writer, Celsus, the 1st century medical author, involved drawing the skin towards the penis forward to cover the glands and fastening it with twine. Then it says epispasm, which is often called the Cadillac of corrective surgery. The Cadillac of corrective surgeries. It's the best version. It's the Cadillac of corrective surgeries. It's the most effective procedure to undo circumcision. Epispasm was a challenging operation.
See that?
The surgeon would cut the skin on the shaft of the penis and pull it forward to cover the glands. So you're cutting it from the base, just the skin, and pulling that skin up.
All it is.
But you better. And they're probably using an X-Acto knife or something sharp as hell.
But
this is the price.
This is
to go Greek.
This is simply just what plastic surgery is today.
Yeah.
For vanity's sake.
Yeah.
What this was in that time period. For vanity's sake.
To fit in.
To fit in.
So I'm gonna read it again.
For the ride.
Epispasm was a challenging operation. The surgeon would cut the skin of the shaft of the penis, pull it forward to cover the glands, meaning the head, and dress it carefully so that the skin would attach itself to the glands. So that they would work it to where that skin would stay there and not fall back.
Yeah.
It would attach to the head. They'll put some type of ointment there to keep it there. Then it said, and dress it carefully so that the skin would attach itself to the glands, leaving a foreskin. Bear in mind that this operation was practiced without anesthesia.
So that means you're going through a lot of pain just to fit in.
Kinda. Bro, then the guy at Celsus said he promised that the operation was not so painful. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All for a gym pass?
All for a gym
gym
pass. Now I'm going to show you this. This is how it looked. They would sit back here. Notice the shaft is already like there's an attachment of the skin from the shaft down. So now you have another layer that has to grow into it. The other layer has to grow into it, and they put this metal, copper-like piece of metal on top so that it forces the skin to hang down. It says, as Celsus wrote, and if the glands is bare and the man wishes to look of it to have it covered, that can be done. He says Celsus called one of his operations decircumcision. He says, or restoration of the prepuce for those who were circumcised, and other reconstruction, and of the prepuce for those congeniality deficient foreskins. So what they're doing is they're just saying, hey, they cut it from the shaft, pour the skin down, so there's a little skin on the outside, and your stuff is still there, but it's bloody and red, and that's just got to heal on its own. The skin gets pulled down, and to keep it down, they put ointments on there, and this metal, not a metal piece, but a copper. It says the Judaeum pondum a funnel-shaped copper weight is used in an attempt to create the foreskin. They put a copper weight around
to
it
weight it down.
so that the skin finally gives in,
So-
and then trying to pull back to its original space.
No, it's being put-
It's pulled downward.
gosh.
This is what the Jew got to do to see it, to be at the gym and smile and hang out.
be cool.
And they said, listen, we advise you not to get aroused until this thing heals up. Hell yeah! You better sit back here and put ointments and dead and whatever you got. This is torture.
You better have some smelling salts around you.
Kinda.
Something, bro.
But this is what they had to do,
well, you
to
know,
fit in.
even in the 80s, and I remember my circumcision, but in the 80s, just a regular circumcision was painful, let alone to decircumcise somebody. You know, and back in the 80s, when you get circumcised, they'll put tape around you. And then after the surgery, and then the worst part is having to peel the tape off. And the nurse, I remember the nurse telling me, this is going to hurt. And she said, well, I said, well, why you put it on there? Why you put the tape on there? Why you put the tape on there? And she said, it's going to hurt. So they put you in a metal, in the 80s, early 80s, they put you in a metal bathtub, like a horse trough that you feed horses with. They put you in a metal bathtub with cold water, and you sit in there, and then they peel the tape off while you're in the tub. And that's one of the most painful feelings.
They're thinking that the water will help break down the components of the tape.
Yeah,
stick 'em.
it doesn't. It's painful. And then you're screaming. You're screaming in the tub.
His legs are moving like this. Huh?
No, man. You're screaming in the tub, man. And that's their way of doing it in the 80s. I don't know how they do it now, but I know, but they had children, little boys, but they just as a baby you don't remember it. You don't, but as a young child you remember it. It's so painful.
And what they were saying is that the younger men, when their skin is more loose, it's not as bad of a transition as when you're older and your skin toughens up. But Jake was doing it at all ages, like just to be in the gym and be accepted.
Just to fit in.
This is the proof that says we go above and beyond the heathen, the works of the wicked. We go above it to fit. We're gonna do what we gotta do by any means necessary to fit in and be accepted by Esau. And the Most High is seeing our young boys, our 14, 15-year-old boys doing this.
And there's so many benefits of. I mean, I just said this to me. There's so many benefits to circumcision. Let's see if I can find it.
We didn't care about that, huh? All we cared about is it said young Jews in the order of Hellenism underwent operations to remedy the physiological shortcomings that might reveal their race. We did this to fit in. We became uncircumcised. Yep. It's important to go into these details so we can see the levels and degrees of the changes we made just to fit in and be comfortable.
This is an article that Amiyati sent me before. It says the ongoing value of literal circumcision is shown by medical researchers. It proved that circumcised males have a lower incidence of infections and carcinoma of the penis. It says also the female partners of uncircumcised males have more infections, which in turn results in a higher incidence of cancer of the cervix.
Listen, imagine all those men they deal with, and they go with their woman. They go with this woman out with an uncircumcised member.
You're just passing germs. You spread STDs.
They didn't give a damn, huh? And we sat back here, and once it got healed, we just rolled like it was normal.
We can care less about passing STDs,
bro.
As long as I'm accepted.
As long as we can do this was online. As long as we can fit in and do this, huh?
Come on, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You got it now.
You gotta show it to show it how the gymnasium was.
Like Peter Griffin. What other cartoon? What the hell's going on?
Listen, I'd rather that being a real person you see on there.
Yeah, I get that.
You got to put a cartoon version of it.
Yeah.
You put it real. You want to watch that?
But you know,
I'm saying, just real quick. This is what it is. They wrap it around and then they tie it around.
That's how you work out in the gym.
That's how you work out in the gym.
But you know, we got to show it because this is what we gave. We gave up our culture to adopt this Greek culture, this madness,
brother. With them boys, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. You know when you
We
see a
can
lot of
take
the
come on.
African,
Yeah.
you see a lot of the African channels. What do they know? Because a lot of times you see them naked and they have it tied. What's that mean when the Africans have their?
That's a whole different. That's a whole different thing.
That's what
I don't even know what that is.
That's a whole different. That's coming.
Listen, we don't watch this like for
That
entertainment.
has nothing to do with the Greeks. Yeah, that's just people, rural tribes out there. They have their customs too.
But all I know is this is what we did. This is the extent. Listen, There ain't no explanation. They just doing it. The women had to serve and lock in, right? Goes back to that class. You better choose right. Or you want to deal with this
You chose
crap.
a Greek.
You chose Greek. You chose a cat that was flighty. That's what I'm saying. You better serve him then. Take care of this man.
He wanted to be a part of the fraternity,
God.
and he's willing to do
And that
whatever.
really does happen.
Yeah.
That's a frequent complaint when they marry at a college job. Those guys that get those we do a lot of moves. Right? You get those they become part of those fraternities.
Yeah.
And that's an element that's in their household forever after they already gone through those rituals.
God, bro.
There's rituals that are unspoken
Yeah.
to belong in a fraternity or sorority.
Yep.
So listen,
That's in your house now.
that's in your house. That's in your nation. This is how the Jews were operating in the nation. It got that bad, and the sad thing is, as we continue on these chapters, it gets worse. I don't want to go even further. I think that's enough for one class absorption to kind of digest. We'll go back into some more stuff next week, and then after next week, I think we have the Passover, so that'll be the last class for a little bit. But last Sabbath, I should say, Sabbath class. But next week we'll go into the after effects of this movement and how much the art and the gymnasiums and the pedestry really had an effect. And then we had the uncircumcision. This is a real thing, and we kept diminishing. So can you imagine how the Most High was looking at us? Can you imagine how much disgust and how angry he was looking at how we carried ourselves? Just imagine how bad that was, and how he was ready. He had to make an extreme move to punish that behavior. Y'all understand?
But we asked for that. We wanted that lifestyle.
We wanted it. We petitioned for it, and we made that a priority in our life, in the Jews' life. With that, we're going to sit back here and send our prayers up. Amajim.
Rise and face Jerusalem. Oh, man.
All I can say is this is what the Most High says. Listen, he had to come visit this nation.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense, right?
It's justified.
God.
Justified.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai.
In the name of Yahweh Shai.
Please listen to us right now.
Please listen to us right now.
Send Michael
Send Michael
and the righteous angels
and the righteous angels
to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong, the people of Yasharallah.
The people of Yasharallah.
Also send unto us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, and much love, spiritual power, and forgive all of our sins. Yahweh Shai come quickly. For in thee is our hope. Always. And forever. Amen. Shem Yahweh Shai. Nothing to know.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law.
Nothing to know.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us light to see.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Hahawa Ab. Nathanawa. Ha'ayah. Kwara. La Kwara. Ha'aim.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the ram's horn to call the people.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Hahawa Ab. Nathanawa. Shimon. Zayat. La Mashak. Yashral.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the olive oil to anoint Israel.
Psalms 92. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
And to sing praise unto thy name.
And to sing praise unto thy name.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
And thy faithfulness every night.
And thy faithfulness every night.
Upon an instrument of 10 strings.
Upon an instrument of 10 strings.
And upon the psaltery.
And upon the psaltery.
Upon the harp.
Upon the harp.
With the solemn sound.
With the solemn sound.
For thou, Yahweh, hast made me glad through thy work.
Has made me glad through thy work.
I will triumph in the works of thy hands.
In the works of thy hands.
O Yahweh, how great are thy works.
How great are thy works.
And thy thoughts are very deep.
And thy thoughts are very deep.
A brutish man knoweth not.
A brutish man knoweth not.
Neither doth the fool understand this.
Neither doth the fool understand this.
When the wicked springeth the grass.
When the wicked springeth the grass.
And when all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
And when all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
It is that they should be destroyed forever.
It is that they should be destroyed forever.
But thou, Yahweh, art most high forevermore.
Art most high forevermore.
For lo, thy enemies.
For lo, thine enemies.
O Yahweh. For lo, thy enemies.
For lo, thine enemies.
Shall perish. All the workers of iniquity.
All the workers of iniquity.
Shall be scattered. But my horn shalt thou exalt. Like the horn of a unicorn. I should be anointed with fresh oil. Mine eye also shall see. My desire. On my enemies. And my ears shall hear. My desire. Of the wicked. That rise up against me. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord. Shall flourish in the courts of our power. They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They should be fat and flourishing. To show that the Lord is upright. He is my rock. And there is no unrighteousness in him. Ba'ashem Yahushai. Psalms 133. Shayar, Hama'awa, Raduad, Hana, Ma, Tawad, Wama, Na'ayam, Shabbat, Akim, Gam, Yachad, Kashaman, Hatawad, Ayo, Haraash, Yerad, Ayo, Hazakwan, Zakwan, Aharan, Shayarad, Ayo, Payah, Manawaf Yawa, Khatal, Karamwan, Shayarad, Ayo, Haroya, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Tazawa, Yahweh, Habaraka, Kayaya, Harbalam, Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Psalms 133 in English. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life evermore. Amen.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Rakanawa. Washralim. Wabiyan. Support. 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 Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahushai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahushai. All knowledge, all wisdom, all understanding, all patience, all mercy, all love, all power is from Yahweh. All power is from Yahweh. All power is from Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushai. The water. Amyat. Aman. Circle up. Watch your feet. I caught it.
All right. Saluting out the heavenly order, Yahweh, Yahushai, okay, Allah, Min Israel, Muslim, Rock.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barakatam.
Hold yourself. Hold yourself. Hold yourself. Top. Turn and face sisters, please stand. Saluting out the daughters of Zion, men of Israel, Mudra, Barak.
Yahweh Barakatam by Hashem Yahshua. Yes, Batam. Dismiss. Voila. Israel, the water for tuning in. Thank y'all. See y'all on Monday. Shalom.
That cartoon blew me away.